the audience, and thank you for attending. Viewers may watch TCAPS Board of Education meetings and committee meetings live or on demand at any time at tcaps.net/board. Please rise and join Mr. Walters' 4th grade class from Blair Elementary in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You're still learning.
I think that was actually more of the automatic of catching on different ones. I apologize about the technical difficulties.
Where's Larry?
Yeah.
We are at the review approval portion of the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve?
I move to approve the agenda as presented.
I second.
Second. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion carries. Moving on to the first item is,
I do have something that I requested, so we may have to revisit that, or I may need a supermajority now at this point.
I will now need a supermajority as well.
So I do have an item that I've informed the board that we do have some curricular materials with, that some teachers need, relatively small amount of materials from the past with CKLA. I've provided an updated memo for all of you on your desk and all day as well, so that it was there, just to inform the community of it. So I am requesting that to be added to the agenda.
Okay.
So
Do we need to rescind the previous?
Nope, you don't need to
you're gonna have to have
rescind. You just
motion
have to
to-
actually do it now, and it would take a supermajority to do
Yeah,
so.
so I just take a motion to add that to the agenda.
I move to add the elementary English language arts for the CKLA material purchase to the agenda.
I second that.
Second. Any discussion? Tammy, please conduct a roll call vote.
Trustee Moonmore,
Yes.
trustee Bajeris.
Yes.
Trustee Ballinger,
Yes.
trustee Hardy,
Aye.
trustee Pack,
Yes.
trustee Schmidt,
Yes.
and trustee Newman-Vale.
Yes. Motion carries.
Thank you.
And that will become item F, and so apologies for not catching that.
It's fast on me.
I know, I move fast. Alright, moving on to the next discussion item, recognition, turn to Dr. Ryan.
Okay, tonight, we're going to take the time to recognize Step Up Northern Michigan. So Step Up Northern Michigan is a program that provides vital resources of basic needs for many, many of our kids. They have for, I believe, well over, at this point, 2 decades, done the work. Started a lot at Traverse City High School, but has worked, I know, with our SSN to expand a lot of that. And so when I first got here, I had the chance to meet Kathy O'Connor, who's really a pivotal founding member of the organization and really has put her heart and soul into this program for years and years and years. And so I'm really happy to recognize Step Up Northern Michigan, and also want to give Kathy the opportunity to talk about her staff that she works with and the work they do on behalf of the children here in TCAPS. So with that, I'll go ahead and have Kathy come up and say a few words.
Well, thank you so much for this recognition by the board. I've heard of my team here, Nikki Kettlewell is our executive director, and Melissa O'Brien is one of our board members. And we couldn't be more happy to be of service to the idea that strong schools also require a community input. And we like to be the bridge between those things. And we are always just over impressed with the staff dedication that we experience in all of our buildings. It's sometimes overwhelming because these people just go above and beyond, and so we like to do the same thing and help them bridge that gap of what, schools can do and what parents can do, and like help to be the bridge to help students and families that are lacking in food insecurity. And right now, that's paramount in the discussions at the board and across the district. So we're just honored that you have chosen to recognize us this year, and we are looking forward to doing all that we can moving forward. So thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. We'd like to get a picture.
Behind you.
And a flower.
Not just a flower.
Should we just do it here?
Up to you. The background? No, you do the background.
I know, I think you're gonna come up here and get a picture.
You can put the flower down or up, your choice. But somebody gets to hold the certificate.
Scott, you hold it.
Scoot over that way,
You
Scott.
want me to take the flowers?
No.
Okay, you got it? It looks good on you.
Can you scoot just this way a little bit more than on this?
Just a little bit.
No, we're coming this way.
Yeah, this way a little bit. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
Thank
Thank you for everything. Appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
You for all you guys do. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, good, keep harassing them.
Okay, thank you. Next discussion item is public comment. Can we have public comment? So, it's interesting, I don't actually have. The board has set aside this time for public comment, and individuals addressing the board shall have one opportunity to speak. This shall be limited to 3 minutes. Individuals should not make personal attacks unrelated to actions affecting the school system, and we strongly encourage common courtesy and constructive feedback. Detailed rules and procedures, including a complaint process, are outlined in Board Policy 2504. Tammy?
Betty Dickinson.
Good evening, members of the board, Commissioner Wagner. My name is Becky Dickinson, and I'm a second grader at Willow Hill Elementary. Last year in first grade, my son had difficulty sustaining attention and following directions, and this year, as far as I know, the class sizes for second grade at Willow Hill are between 28 and 30 at this point, and I and several other parents are deeply concerned for how this is going to impact not only my son's ability to learn and focus, but all the other students as well. And we appreciate the district's efforts to support these classes, including the addition of 3-hour aides. However, we still lack clarity around their qualifications, and aides we know alone can't replace guidance of a fully qualified teacher throughout the school day. And so while we understand these constraints, we strongly encourage the district to take additional proactive steps to recruit a qualified teacher for these students. And large class sizes aren't sustainable for student learning, teacher effectiveness, or alignment with, I know, TCAPS strategic plan emphasizing improved literacy and math achievement beginning in grades 2 through 5, and also the goal to focus on student well-being and having a trusted adult at school. So I just respectfully ask that you continue to pursue additional efforts and every possible solution, especially an added teacher or providing targeted interventions, and communicate openly with Willow Hill families along the way. So our students deserve a learning environment where they can truly thrive. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Bill Wiesner.
Bill Wiesner, Traverse City, and the handout I gave out is Alberta, Canada, Premier Danielle Smith confirms order to remove pornographic books in school libraries, or sexually explicit ones too. Will TCAPS do the same with their 307 books in K through 12 right now? I'm just mainly reading the highlighted portion on page 2. It's talking in this article, in May, Alberta announced its plan to ban books with sexually explicit as well as pornographic material, many of which contain LGBTQ and even pedophilic content from all school libraries. Under the new guidelines, all sexual books for school children under grade 10 will be totally banned, and for students in grade 10 and older, books containing non-explicit sexual content will be permitted. But the ones that have explicit sexual content will not. And TCAPS again has 307. Are we going to get rid of these? Flamer is an example. I'll read an excerpt of that at the end. And then Smith quickly, LGBT activists were concerned about this and complained. Smith quickly responded to these allegations, reaffirming that Alberta is not censoring literature, but says protesting, it should be protecting innocent children from reading pornographic books at the school. Quote, she says, "I'm going to be more explicit than usual so there is no misunderstanding this policy," she wrote on X. 1, get graphic pornographic images out of the school libraries. 2, leave the classics on the shelves. 3, we all know the difference between items 1 and 2. Let's not play any more games in implementing this policy for the kids. And second point, referring back to that earlier article, this is something I've shared with you guys before. The excerpt only on page 3, it says, Alberta Premier Daniel Smith stressed that this isn't about banning books. It's about protecting kids from graphic, sexually explicit content that has no place in the classrooms. And 3 is Kinsey, in this chart I left there anyway, with table 34, sexually molesting a 6-month-old and a 4-year-old 26 times in 24 hours. On number 4, the porn stuff that you're saying is bad, very good on the top of page 4. The excerpt on point 5 is, hey, Navarro, suck any good dicks lately? Ha 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 ha. What's wrong, Navarro? I thought you liked big sausage in your mouth. Ha ha ha. There's 2 religious beliefs, one based on Kinsey and one based on Christian. Read those last 2 points. Thank you very much.
Sharon Workman.
Hi, thank you for this opportunity to comment. My name is Sharon Workman. I'm with the Sunrise Rotary Club Born to Read project, and I'm here with Betsy Moore, who is with the Dolly Parton's Imagination Library. So we're talking as a duet. We started 2 years ago a new initiative called Books from Birth in partnership with each other and with other organizations in the community. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about that, but first I wanted to thank you, each of you, for your commitment, your time, your dedication on this board for our community's children. I know how much time and effort this takes. I'm too old to have children in the school, but I do have a therapy dog. Her name is Gracie, and she visited Court Aid every week for 2 years with me. And we were able to witness firsthand the dedication and commitment of the teachers, the principal, the janitor, the social work staff in creating a nurturing learning environment for the kids. And we saw the progress that they made in that year, those 2 years that we were there. So we are great supporters of TCAPS, and like you, we were disappointed to see the 3rd grade reading results for the tests that were recently done, that half of our 3rd graders aren't reading proficiently. It's not a new problem, we know that, and it's not just a TCAPS problem. We believe that the entire community needs to work together to change these disheartening trends. So we're here to offer our support and collaboration as you develop strategies for addressing and increasing the percentages of 3rd graders that are reading proficiently. Sunrise Rotary, the other thing I wanted to mention is today is International Literacy Day. It was declared by UNESCO back in 1966, 60 years ago. And it's to remind policymakers, practitioners, and the public of the critical importance of literacy for creating more literate, just, peaceful, and sustainable society. So it feels really fitting that we're talking to you here tonight. Sunrise Rotary started Born to Read in partnership with Munson Medical Center and other partners over a decade ago. Our mission hasn't changed since then. It's to increase early literacy starting at birth, when brain development and language acquisition are at their peak. 15 seconds remaining. We provide books to every baby born at Munson, and we encourage parents to read with their child right from the start. It's the single most important thing they can do to ensure school success and success in life. In 2023, we partnered with Dipple to form Books from Birth.
Thank you.
Okay,
Sorry,
you're
your
welcome,
time
that's
is up.
okay, you're gonna hear from her, so. I have flyers here that I will
Thank you.
leave so that you can learn more about Books from Birth.
Betsy Moore.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, I broke it. I don't need all that.
Dolly Parton's Imagination Library is part of this, the Books from Birth initiative. We partnered with Rotary. I just wanted to tell you a little bit about it, and thank you for your time and sort of listening to us. So Dolly Parton's Imagination Library Grand Traverse Region is a local affiliate of a national, actually international program that supports early literacy from birth until age 5. Mails an age-appropriate book to children every month from the time they're registered until their 5th birthday when they graduate. The books are chosen by a panel of early childhood experts and are always free to families. Children who are registered at birth at Munson Medical Center, when their child's born, before they ever leave the hospital, will receive 60 books before they ever enter kindergarten. This is an evidence-based program, so there's a lot of research. Because it's a national program, there's a lot of research that has been done. We know that children who participate in the Imagination Library are read to more often, they learn to enjoy books, and they build skills they need to succeed when they start school. So we are an all-volunteer, very dedicated team, very committed to early literacy. And our team is made up of teachers, retired teachers, and librarians, elementary teachers and kindergarten teachers in particular, who know the impact and the importance of reading to kids daily before they ever start school, so that they're kind of set on a path to success when they start kindergarten. So we're working really hard to get children off to a great start. And we do that by registering children across the Grand Traverse region and paying for the books that are mailed to them. Currently, you might find this interesting, there's 2,410 children in Grand Traverse County that are receiving books every month, which is about 52% of all eligible children. That's double what it was less than 2 years ago when we launched the Books from Birth initiative. So we've seen tremendous growth and we're very excited about it. And the children are being enrolled younger and younger because we're sort of starting at the hospital, which is terrific because the research shows the longer they're enrolled, the greater the impact. So I just finally want to thank you. I want to thank TCAPS for their help in allowing us to, we actually have flyers that are going out into all the pre-K classrooms and GRS. You know what I mean. Sorry. You got it. Into their classrooms and Head Start so all of those families are receiving these this fall. I also want to thank the elementary principals who have been very welcoming when we've asked to come in on open house nights and literacy nights and let us help to enroll families there. In fact, we were at Blair and Traverse Heights just a couple weeks ago, and we enrolled 24 children that evening. So thank you for your support.
Thank you.
Oh, I think we're gonna. Did you get
Send them right here.
Okay. Just so you can see what the flyers, there's a book list on the back in case you're interested. Thank you.
All right, thank you, and thanks everyone for that. Okay, we're moving on to Superintendent's report, deferring to Dr. Balranger.
Okay, Tuesday, September 2nd was our first day of school. We had a great first day across the district. We had our team all out, and construction-wise, we were 99% there, but all able to get into classrooms and see all the kids, welcome faces, lunches served, and just an overall great day to be able to celebrate. Across the district, our fall sports are in full swing with over 800 student athletes participating in 9 varsity sports, which include swim dive, sideline cheer, boys tennis, girls cross country, boys cross country football, boys soccer, volleyball, and girls golf. We also have our music programs, as you can tell, are running right now. Both CHS and West Senior High Schools kicked off the year with successful band and choir camps, while welcoming hundreds of students back to campus before classes even started. The Central High School Marching Band performed their show for the community on August 27th, and the West Senior High Marching Band has already performed at 2 football games, and we're joined by the West Middle School Symphony Band for the September 5th game. The Central High School Fall Musical Uniontown is in rehearsals and will open on November 14th. West Senior High has added a 3rd orchestra class for the first time due to growing enrollment. And the all-city choir made up of fifth graders will begin rehearsals on September 29th for a district tour in November. To support all these programs, a discount card fundraiser is running from September 12th to the 26th across the district. Cards are $10 with 86% of the proceeds going directly to the music programs. Congratulations to Tanya Donahue, a teacher at West Middle School, who has been awarded the AIM Supporting Active Teachers Grant. The funding will support ESL and ELA opportunities for our students. Way to go, Tanya. And then also, rather an extension now of our Northwest Michigan Health Services and TCAPS Student Health Center, which you know is at West Middle School. We are now going to partner with Traverse City High, and we have a program that we are looking at doing a mobile unit. So essentially it runs under the exact same program. All of the parameters are the same, the rules are the same, parent permission, all those things are identical, but it will do a road trip over to Traverse City High School. And we're hoping to be able to do that first one tentatively right now on September 25th from 9 to 3. I have a flyer for each of you tonight that I'll hand out here in the end, and we're hoping also to get them to a future curriculum committee to be able to talk about what they're trying to do, and again, how that is to try and work to kids get more to know about the health center at West Middle School and provide to some of our most vulnerable students. Also want to let you know that we are continuing our push to let all parents know that we are asking them to complete the federal and state benefits form, also known as a free and reduced meal application, for the current school year by October 1st. This application remains critical to secure essential state and federal funding that benefits every student in the district. And I think it's important to identify that the federal, until September 30th, we have universal free breakfast and lunch across the district. With the state budget, we don't know where that's going to go. We do know that as of October 1st, the federal program will remain for our kids that qualify under the free and reduced lunch. However, we need that form filled out, one form for any TCAPS student families. So we're asking you to do that. However, we also get more funding and at-risk funding and state and federal grants that come to every building is based on the number of the forms that we get. So we are asking every family, regardless if you think you qualify under the free and for the federal free and reduced lunch program, we're asking everybody to do that so we have those vital resources that are available to and affect all of our students across the district. And that includes, numbers that we have for reduced costs for essential programs like yearbooks and field trips and AP exams, making sure students have access to those. Looking at valuable education extensions, unique opportunities and robust after-school programs. A lot of that data is based off of the number of these forms that we get at the state and federal levels. So again, we ask that all families complete that application by October 1st. You can find it on our website. We have lots of different emails and things, a campaign going out over the next week. So you'll see that. We have a media release going out. So again, you can, our newsletter that went out has the link to it. So we would ask that everybody, PTOs, talk to parents, look at that, and please try and get as many of those filled out as we possibly can.
Dr. Van Wagener, I just have a clarifying question about, I got this question from a parent. Can a student fill it out, or does it have to be a parent with an electronic
Just take the parent, because it
signature?
asks parent information in there
The
specifically.
income. I mean,
Yeah.
so if a
Yeah.
high school student happened to know all that, could they submit it?
Still takes a signature, digital signature of a parent.
Yeah.
Again, so it can be filled out on paper, but digital is easy, so it does take the digital, but it really is required by law to filled out by a parent.
Okay. Thank you.
And again, the only exception with that would be an emancipated 18-year-old.
Right.
That is considered law, but 99% of the time, it's a parent or a legal guardian. Legislatively, I don't have a lot to update, unfortunately. We are sitting right now, it's still without a state budget. We have, the hardest part, as I've talked about in the media lately, is there is such a gap between the Senate, the House, and the governor's version of the budget. Based on categoricals and different things, this budget could easily swing $2 to $3 million for us, depending on where that lands, where it falls. I can tell you all the updates I had today, a couple of different calls with some folks in Lansing. The general spirit is not optimistic that we will not have a state shutdown on October 1st. Where that gets real scary is that our state aid payment, the button is hit for that first payment October 20th, is my understanding. The problem is October 1st, if state government shut down, the Department of Education is shut down, the state level. And so they believe they need a certain amount of time. We've heard everything from 7 to 14 days based on what comes out of that budget, of what each district will get, and to be able to fulfill that payment. If we do not get that payment, that means that we are using our reserves to be able to use it for cash flow, for payroll, all those kind of things. That's why it's important to understand to our public of having a fund balance. We sit right around that 10%. It's actually recommended to have 15 to 17% by the School Business Officials Association, essentially 3 months operating. We are probably sitting on closer to 2 months operating cost in a unique situation. So keeping an eye on it, still advocating, especially, you're seeing right now $12,000 a student from the House right now, Republicans. That doesn't include categoricals and a big retirement payment that's there. That's not there, which is not in their agreement. We're upward of 40 cents of every payroll dollar that we have to pay back to the state versus about 24 cents, I think, or 26 cents we're paying now. So I can tell you without that retirement payment, we've done the numbers. The House budget without that retirement payment is less than the governor in the Senate version, okay? Our hope is critical categoricals like transportation, like rural and isolated district, like at-risk funding, universal breakfast and lunch, and the retirement things are all key things, especially for northern Michigan school districts. So I would encourage any board members, any parents that talk to our local state legislators, it is imperative we keep those categoricals that give a difference for equality and equity for our region. Again, there are districts downstate that are 2 square miles that have 3 buses with 7,000 students. There are districts in the state that have 2,000 square miles with 500 students. We fall in that range of about 8,800 with 300 square miles. So we have a big difference in the $6 million we spend in transportation to an East Grand Rapids, for instance, that has only a few buses they use for athletics. Berkeley Schools in Southeast Michigan doesn't provide transportation at all. So if you get the $12,000 there, they get it, just like we'd get it. They don't do busing, we have to do busing. Therein lies your problem without categoricals. So again, we understand that 150 is probably too many. It can be limited down, all the grants and everything that takes people power to write and all that. But there are those very specific ones. We've talked with our legislators. We're going to continue to advocate for to try and find a happy medium somewhere in this budget between our governor and our 2 houses of the legislature. So we're going to keep advocating that. If you have any questions, please let us know. And again, we're going to continue in media as well as, in every opportunity we have to speak to different folks to really hit home and have the understanding of what that means for us and for our kids, that we've had to do a lot of guesswork right now, and we've deficit spended in our budget, and we've continued to even do that with some of the recent things we've done that we may not get the money back for based on the budget. It's a gamble we've taken, and we're hoping to advocate for where that is. So any questions on any of that I can help provide?
Do you think there'll be some school districts that will actually have to close?
Well,
They don't have the
so here's what
reserve.
we've been told. There are some districts across the state that have already contacted financial institutions to take out loans to be able to make payroll. So if you're sitting at 5%, for instance, you're at risk of takeover. If you already in the summertime, you don't get money from the state, so you have to float. So, there's a time, even in one of my former districts, we had to borrow $2 million and pay interest on that just to be able to make payroll. And so I do believe there's gonna be districts that are already close to that 5% hovering fund balance that are already going to have to take state aid. They're already doing it just to be on the safe side, borrowing money to make sure they have it to be able to keep their doors open in those first months.
What are the political pundits saying about the likelihood of a shutdown that would really last more than a matter of hours or perhaps days? Because I've heard it's
Yeah.
only happened a couple times in the last 15 years.
It's anybody's guess, right? But, the hard part is, especially when state government, if it does shut down for a day or 2 even, it disrupts the flow of all of those things. So, I've heard everything from, it could go 30 days to it'll be done at 11:59 p.m. on just before the clock strikes midnight on October 1st. So we'll be there. I wouldn't shock me if I get called down to Lansing to be there that night. You know, we've done it before, but again, we are not going to let our local legislators, you know, go to a point where they don't understand those, especially those very 5, 6 key categoricals that matter for TCAPS, matter for Northern Michigan schools, that don't matter as much for charters, don't matter as much for some districts in Southeast Michigan that do not have the geography and the miles that we drive. So we're gonna continue to hit that home and try and fight for what we believe are huge differences that we need in Northern Michigan.
There's a lot of them, it isn't even just Northern Michigan, it's rural.
It is rural, but you know, we have, in Northern Michigan, we have like the top 5 largest geographic districts. Just in our ISD, we have 3 of the largest, right across from Kalkaska, Traverse City, Benzie, is almost 1,500 square miles between 3 school districts. Massive amount to do, so while, yeah, there are a few, it matters to
everyone probably.
It matters to all of us in Northern Michigan.
Yes. And to your point, for the first time, I think I've heard more people than not say that they believe it could be longer, which is a bad sign when there was always been historically, it's hit midnight, now we panic.
Right. It's a lot of bad publicity
And a lot
for
of people,
legislators, so they're under pressure to get it done.
I can't imagine it going on, but there's definitely been the will to do
Yeah.
it.
Well, it's parties, it's not just the legislature, individuals, it's party.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
Well, and
what the
I just
issue-
wanted to make a point that thank goodness that we have you. I mean, because I think in this day and age, to have your voice down there with our local legislators, I think, and they need to hear that, and
Yeah.
I think you're so well educated on it that it's
I appreciate that. The whole team, Christine sits on the Government Relations Committee with Traverse Connect, and, you know, Representative Roth was there, you know, and already, I know Scott even does as well, sits on that. So, you know, and that's why I would say, every board member, every parent, to contact local legislators, put it out in the media, like, there's a reality that could swing huge for our kids in what we're able to support. We already are struggling to support what we want to support and haven't been able to an extent, support what we want to support. And we want it to go the other way. And there's the ability in this deal to go the other way, but there is an easy ability to go the opposite way that negatively affects our kids. And we've got to advocate.
How do we even do planning on, like, because obviously we're gonna go to bed, pretty sure we're gonna go to bed on the 30th and not know what's gonna happen on the
Well,
1st.
again, John won't, right. We have a budget, right? And we, you know, I can't say this enough, this is why you have a fund equity. You know, to be able to weather a storm, especially like this. You know, last thing I want to be doing is going to, you know, local, you know, banks and, you know, investments and those things going, we need to borrow money and pay interest. So that's key, you know, but like I said, as I've said and talked to some of the local media, the hardest part of this is, as the board knows, over the last quite a few years, when we've gotten the budget, we've said, okay, we have a little bit more than what we budgeted. What can we do? Let's hire some more teachers. Let's get rid of some of our class size. We've done it each year of the last 3 or 4 years I've been here when we, you know, we're able to see
More curriculum
in numbers.
materials.
Right.
Materials.
Yeah, and materials, right? And so this year, we already had a negative budget going in. Our board did what we could with what we could find as far as teachers, you know, in that element. We hired everyone that was viable that we could find. Again, we all agreed, we're not hiring people that don't have the skills to be in front of our kids, but if we'd have known that 3 months ago or 2 months ago, it would have made a huge difference. When people can figure out maybe a place to live that's really hard to find up here. Like, we know those challenges. And so this has put us in a horrible bind. And I don't think all of our legislators quite understand the realities of that. And that some of it awfully hard to replace. It's awfully hard to now get somebody to move from downstate, you know, after the school year started. You know, or from another state. It's very unique for anybody to move in, especially with our housing crisis. But we're gonna advocate, get every resource we can to do what we can. We all wanna do what's best for our kids and find all the resources we can for our kids. So again, if I hear anything at any point, as you know, we'll let you know. And I just ask, if you do get the chance to advocate, professional associations, MASB, those things, please do.
Okay.
One last question. Is there any chance that the House will increase their base for the foundation?
No, I don't think so, because they are using all of the categoricals wrapped up. So in other words, let's say they get to that 12,000 number. That means for us, just under $1 million in transportation funding goes away. That means retirement that we've been getting paid down goes away. That means being a rural district funds that we get goes away. At-risk kids, kids that are poor and need more support, that money goes away. And it just takes all of those away and puts it into one foundation amount. And so the problem is when you look at all of the categoricals we get and compare it to that, with the retirement that they're proposing in the House budget, that the Senate version with the categoricals we get and 10,000 per student, or 10,100, I don't remember which, is actually more than the 12,000 foundation.
Cause I heard it takes more to administer with all the categoricals,
And
your management costs.
And we will tell you that 150 is too many. I agree with the the Republican legislators that believe that part. I will not argue that. But there are some key ones there that I just talked about, that if we don't get, other people downstate get the money and don't have to provide the services that we have to provide. So I'll give you, again, that example, East Grand Rapids. Same foundation as us, same all that. They don't have to do buses, they have like 4 of them. They're like 3 square miles. Godfrey Lee's 1 square mile. We're 300. We provide busing to our kids, it's essential. We spend $6 million on it. So if we both get the same foundation and we don't get anything more, what good does the more foundation do? So I'm hoping for a happy medium. I'm hoping to see a foundation that bumps up, keeping those key categoricals, not all these that you have to write all the grants for, and all these different things that take all the people power to do, limit it down, but let's take those ones that, that solve some inequities, like transportation, like at-risk, like rural districts, like the retirement component, that matters for us, and keep those with that foundation. That's the best outcome that, as Northern Michigan schools, we're trying to make happen.
I think in a general sense, the conversation about getting rid of categoricals, it's like changing the whole funding scope for schools. It's like going back and revisiting Proposal A. It's not just a budget conversation.
Yeah.
It's revisiting the whole entire way schools are funded.
Well, that's about equity too. I mean, we went through the 2X funding and that seemed to solve the problem temporarily. This sets us right back where we started before 2X came.
And that's what once the 2X was reached, now the categoricals were helping to do that. Mm-hmm. And so if you take that away, now it creates a wider divided inequity again. So again, let's fight for the ones that really matter to us. We'll take a foundation bump to an extent, but we need some of these categoricals that help with some of those inequities, special ed, transportation, retirement, at-risk, universal breakfast, that element.
That would be across your state, you're at risk, right? Cause Detroit kids are at risk.
100% right. But like I said, in the Republican version in the House right now, none of those are there. It just gives you a flat dollar amount, here you go.
So basically, those districts can allocate more towards the classroom, which is teacher salaries,
Right.
and then they become more competitive to get the best teachers.
And have more teachers
Disadvantages
and
us.
lower class size and all those things and we're spending $6 million a year on transportation. We still do that. We only get a little less than $1 million, but we got that 2 years ago. You might remember, we fought for years, decades for that categorical, right? Support, and it was bipartisan. Wayne Schmidt fought as much as Betsy Covia did, to get that understanding. We don't want to lose it after fighting that long for it, and so there are some key ones as Northern Michigan that we're gonna try to advocate, but I will acknowledge some of them can go down. Especially those that take all the time to write all these grants, especially small districts that don't have grant writers, those people, it's nearly impossible for us, so that's fair. There's a happy medium here, no doubt, but, it's time to compromise and find the happy medium in Lansing.
sure that will happen in late September.
If you really wanna rile up the public and get the legislators' attention, you can always cancel football season.
Yeah.
Remember, that was the advice of the political pundits at that Northern Michigan legislative dinner that many of us attended in August.
Or stop busing,
Yeah.
yeah. Busing is not required by state law.
Yeah,
Yeah, but
what
you
you had to
get
do in
parents mad
Illinois
as
is
heck.
to stop busing for about a week.
Yeah, that too.
But
Okay.
that would hurt kids, we don't want that, and so we want our legislators to get together and get us a dang budget.
Okay.
And most important, we say all of this, but we're not, the school budget is not the big fight. I mean, I think they would figure
Road
that out.
funding's in there, but it has an impact because they're now trying to basically take some general fund obligations and pay out of the school fund for universities out of it that does, so that's a big piece of this battle too, with the Senate, so. So we've got our fight in this piece and they got a large fight in the whole shell game, so, but we'll argue that one too.
Anything else on this fun topic? No. We'll move on to board committee report outs. First up, board curriculum committee, August 25th, reporting out by trustee Ballard.
Okay, so we met on August 25th and there were no public comments. We approved the minutes. There were no changes or updates to our district course catalog, so as usual, that is on our consent agenda tonight. Our learning series this month was on professional learning over the summer and also opening the school year. So Jesse Houghton and Dan Tisworth walked us through several learning opportunities over the summer, like 11 teachers took week-long AP instruction, and so on. The district assessment schedule was an informational item, and I'll just go over very quickly the key changes. There were no changes to high school testing, so 9th, 10th, 11th graders all take PSAT and or SAT. Plus in 11th grade, they take the M-STEP for social studies and science. So no changes there whatsoever. Middle school, because there has been a lot of discussion, and I think most of us have been part of this for years, about the amount of testing that our kids undergo, the testing fatigue, the number of instructional days that are required. Dan and Jesse did reach out to teachers and got their input, and they decided to drop the spring NWEA in 6th and 7th grades. They'll still take the NWEA in October and February, but that last one that was, in like the April-May timeframe, very close to the M-STEP, is the justification for removing that one. So there still will be the M-STEP, ELA, and math in May as well. There's still a lot of testing, I think that's the bottom line. And then for 8th grade, we're dropping the NWEA altogether because of the transition to PSAT 8th and 9th grade for PSAT 8-9, which is taken twice a year, October and April. And again, 8th graders are subject to the M-STEP science and social studies. And then going down to the elementary level, pretty much status quo there, but the K through 5 NWEA reading in winter has been discontinued, and this was with 75% of teachers supporting that decision. They're gonna continue with the math for now because of the Delta math for Tier 2 students. They wanted some continuity there. Give that one more time, but they might be looking at discontinuing the NWEA math after 2 years. So that was it. Jesse, Dan, did I miss anything there? Okay. Moving on, for informational items, we also talked about the district free and reduced benefits form with the big push September 8th to 19th. And our next board curriculum committee meeting will be September 30th here in this room at 8:30 a.m. and televised as usual.
Thank you. Any questions on curriculum?
I have one question for John, and that is, have you been able to kind of follow whether you're seeing an increase in the number of forms being filled out, or you will not know until later?
Don't know that yet. We just today had an initial conversation with it. Something that's really important to understand is we do not see any of these forms. We have just 2 people in the district that work, our food service director, and manager, that goes directly to them. That way, there's no, ability for any of our staff, including the superintendent, to not have that, so we can make sure that is kept confidential. It's really important to a lot of our children, a lot of parents, and that confidential information. And so, that's kept there, so they're keeping that tally, but I just asked today to get an update, so I don't have that yet. But we're keeping an eye, and we're gonna compare it kind of here over the next week we're doing a push, media release going out. Did that go out today or is it tomorrow?
We did social media today, but we've got a press release this week.
Yep, so we've got a whole campaign here, so we're gonna keep an eye here in the week of how that goes, so we'll let you know.
Thank you.
It's a full court press effort, I will tell you that.
I can tell.
Okay, next, report out, Finance Committee, August 28th, reporting out, Trustee Hardy.
Well, we did meet on August 28th, right here in this room at 8:15 in the morning, and it was a fairly quick and efficient meeting. We had the majority of the meeting we spent talking about the allocation of funds to the Saban renovation to be able to consolidate admin at Saban, and there's a conversation that Christine can have later in the meeting if we want to about the need for that, but it made great sense that we not have all of our administrative staff in a senior high, either central or west, in case some kind of an incident occurred, we need that autonomy. We also talked about the Central High School renovations, the West Middle School renovations. We also went into some of the upcoming bond purchases that we're going to be doing, and the fact that we don't have a budget. It seems to be a recurring theme. And I should say, I probably should have said it earlier, I think our state representatives, at least the ones I've talked to, John Moose and John Roth, understand our issue. A lot of the problem lies with the fact that nobody's listening to them, or at least not enough people are listening to them. So the finance issue, if we're gonna lobby people, we need to lobby people that have a larger influence than some of our legislators do. So I don't wanna be unfair to them. They're gonna get hung with this no matter what happens, but they're trying, seem to be.
And I think the key part of that is all of our Northern Michigan delegation unifying.
Right. So we adjourned at 9:10, and we have our next meeting on the 2nd.
Okay, any questions on finance?
of October.
Next, Board Executive Committee, August 28th, reporting out by Trustee Moore.
So we had a busy day on the 28th. The exec committee met at 4 o'clock. We had no public comment, went right into procedural items. Our minutes from the July 31st meeting remain as posted. We had a board policy discussion regarding policy 5420, and just, I know we're gonna talk about it later, but our associate superintendent, Ms. Connie Taylor, wanted to just clarify that sex education is not required, but that teaching about communicable diseases, HIV and AIDS is. And so I think there was a discussion earlier, and so we had some clarification on that, and again, we'll talk about that, I think, later in the meeting here. So I just wanted to make that note again. And then we went on to review the agenda for tonight, and then went into our informational items, had a human resource update, again from Ms. Taylor, and let's see, so they were able, the HR department was able to hire staff and dissolve 5 of the splits. Dr. Van Wagner added that there is still an elementary teaching position that is posted. I think we heard from some community members tonight in that plea with Willow Hill, and so there's been some good communication back and forth just with the board and administration, so that's great. Ms. Taylor said that they're still looking to hire full-time positions as follows. Building subs, 2 Central High School custodial positions, a bus mechanic, a lead maintenance technician, and a toddler room aide at the Montessori School. There are also lots of part-time instructional aides and noon duty positions still available. So if anyone is listening, there will be some open interviews on September 17th from 8 to 10. here at Glen Loomis, and then also October 15th from 3 to 5 here again at Glen Loomis. And Ms. Taylor also wanted to thank Jimmy Johns, who fed our instructional teams when we were back in the buildings before the kids. So thank you to Jimmy Johns for taking care of our staff. And with that, our next exec meeting will be October 2nd at 4 o'clock, and we adjourned at 4:16.
And thank you for covering me. I had to drive my wife back to work for the holiday weekend, and that left me with a baby. And although she has been with the committee meeting once, she moves a little bit more than she did the first time.
We would've loved to have Lucy, come on.
She's an ex officio member once in a while.
It's getting a little harder now with her, so I
A little more
appreciate
active, yeah.
appreciate
No
it.
worries.
Starts talking.
Yeah, I know. But then you did also have the joy of going straight into office hours that day. And,
Yeah, the busy TCAPS day. Yes, and I just thank you to our local public library for allowing TCAPS to have our meetings there. I did just have one community member show up, and we had a conversation, and so that was my board office hours.
Okay. The next board office hours, September 25th, is Sarah Bajeris is in the virtual meeting, so the link will be posted and is coming up in a few weeks. So again, a virtual meeting, September 25th, and look for that link. Okay, we are moving on to consent. Do I have a motion to approve the consent calendar as presented?
Consent calendar.
As presented.
As presented, be accepted as presented.
A second.
Okay. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion carries. Next up is discussion, school safety update. Defend Dr. Van Wagner.
Yes, so, Secure Environment Consultants, so they've changed their name a little bit, so this is the group you may remember quite a few years back that did our school safety assessment. And TCAPS have continued their partnership to evaluate and enhance the safety and security of sport venues throughout the district. Last week, an SEC consultant attended some of our after-school events with Patrick McManus to conduct on-site assessments of our facilities to identify vulnerabilities and areas for potential improvement. SEC will provide us with expert feedback and actual insights into strengthening security protocols. The district reimagined safety drills last year to build trust and reduce anxiety as well. After receiving a lot of positive feedback, we've decided to continue this model throughout this year. This presentation reduces fear, encourages participation, builds community, and increases preparedness. So you might remember he's going in and talking about what it means when we're doing this, not just a drill, okay, we go back to normal in that element. So definitely, I think, a teaching component to this of learning for our kids and staff. And so appreciate all the work Patrick's doing and happy to continue working with SEC and see what we can learn to just constantly be vigilant on what we have across the district as far as safety and security.
Is that still Jason Russell? It's the.
He's the owner, and he has, it's quite a few different consultants now that as you can
I'm
imagine.
sure he's grown.
Yep,
Okay,
for sure.
thank you.
That's it.
Okay. Next up is bids and services, capital projects and Saban change order. Defined to Dr. Van Wagner.
Okay, so again, we've talked a little bit about this. I've informed the board. Lots of different thoughts. As you know, that we have Central Grade will be moving into this building. We will actually start moving stuff as we get the transition at the end of the year. So we're working to try and be out of this building as soon as possible. We've had different conversations and different thoughts over the last 3-4 years, knowing this is coming. We talked about in finance. Really, at one point, I was of the mindset that we try and really be as frugal as we can. And we have the vacated space at Central High School where the robotics labs have been, with the Innovation Manufacturing Center opening. There it vacated some rooms, and so my thought was to try and really do some very minimal construction, temporary, similar to what we've done here, to move into there. But Christine and Patrick have had the opportunity to do some professional development and go listen to some people nationally and locally in our state. I also had the opportunity as well to do that. We've both had the chance to hear some of the administrators that were in Oxford Community Schools when the tragedy happened in Oxford. And to hear about some of the way that they approached it at that time, natural instinct was to run to the site and do that. Well, as soon as the lockdown happens, they were all trapped in. And so our protocols and everything that are in place now as best practice is for whoever's in that building to stay in place. You're not moving because they don't know who the threat is, all that element. So it really kind of was an aha for all of us to go, we've got a problem with our communications, our chief academic officers, our superintendent, our executive assistant for the superintendent, all being in a building that is a secondary school, especially where more of this has happened. Not that, it, as we all know, unfortunately, and even recent to our community, it can happen anywhere. But having it in one site that there are generally students in is not best practice. And so we've tried to evaluate all of our budget. Fortunately, our projects have been relatively under budget. And so we've been able to look at Sabin, which has been under budget. Our train project has been under budget. So I challenged Christine with taking a look at that. So I'll go ahead and pass it to her and let her talk about where we're at with all of that concept and our recommendation to make this move very frugally still, and not to have an issue where we wouldn't be available in case of an emergency. So, Christine?
Yeah, and if it's okay, I wanna kind of take a step back to several years ago because we do have quite a few board members. So when we first started talking about a 2024 capital bond campaign, we did a facility assessment of all of our buildings. And at that time, it was estimated to be between $6 and $8 million to renovate and upgrade the Boardman building. At that time, the board had a conversation and decided to sell the building. And part of selling the building was a plan for us to move here and either stay here, go to Sabin. Those were all options to be explored. But the whole premise behind that was $6 to $8 million of cost avoidance. So that's why we're here. We had anticipated moving here, either coming back here afterwards or moving to Sabin permanently. John had asked me to kind of look at the budget, and we originally had $10 million set aside for that. We only spent about 3.6 on getting the business office and HR there. And so we're able to do an addition of about 3,000 square feet to get the superintendent, his assistant, curriculum instruction, and the fund development department over there. Very minimal sized offices, but in a permanent structure so that they will last 50 years in an addition to Sabin that will be connected to HR and business office. So we wouldn't be touching the Octagon at this point. There is a cost associated with demo of that building. We're currently using it for storage, so that's good news. We've got a lot to do with storage when our other facility gets built and moving that around and kind of assessing what we've got. But at this point, we don't have to deal with the Octagon. So we're looking strictly at about 3,300 square feet of an addition for about 13 to 14 offices for 1.5 million.
And then will you just talk a little bit, and I know this, but just for the community, that the state police and IT and our print shop, like a little bit about who's in there right now and just.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and actually that, I can't even remember the year that Sabin was actually closed as an elementary school, but it has sat vacant. The majority of it has sat vacant untouched. And is sorely in need of some type of upgrade or tear down if we're not going to use the space. So over the years, we've made decisions like putting the Sabin data warehouse there. So all of our technology staff is there. We also rent space to Michigan State Police. They used to take 2 classrooms, now they're at 3. We also moved our print shop, what used to be in the basement of the Boardman building when we decided not to spend at that time, $6 to $8 million upgrading that. If you'll remember, the elevator was pretty close to being non-operable at that point. We spent money from the sale of the Boardman building and we moved them into what used to be the gym then cafeteria at Saban, and so that's their permanent home. They're all in one open space, much less square feet they need now that it's one big open space and much more efficient. So they're also there. So we have a lot of our actual central office type district resources there. It's also just a couple hundred feet down the road from our facilities, our food service, and our transportation offices. So all of operations is out there as well.
Christine, if Saban gets renovated for administrative offices, then that is exactly where you're gonna stay indefinitely.
That is our plan right now. That is my recommendation. The board, different people, 5, 6 years. Remember, we're a year away from even starting central grade. You're at a 3-year, renovation of central grade. So you're at least 4 years out before this building or Oak Park, our other building that we lease out, the lease comes to an end there. So you're at that point before you can ever make any other real decision at that point. As we've explored this building and Oak Park, we think there's some real opportunity for early childhood programming that's needed in our community. We know that these two are in the city limits, and we know that is when people often maybe work and come in from the outer areas, from a space for children, these are more needed and usable than I think a space for administration is. And so it is my recommendation that we do make that full move there. That being said, if the board in the future wanted to change their mind and something else comes available or whatever, it's space that you can lease. And, I've talked with Scott. We originally took a look in informing the board. I originally did take a look at leasing some space. Could we do that for 4 or 5 years? Our issue with that is we cannot use bond dollars. It comes out of general fund dollars that we know are precious, that everything we're trying to do to raise achievement with kids are dollars we need. And then also with that, we want to make sure that those resources are used in the best way. And we were going to spend quite a bit of money. Leasing space isn't cheap, especially finding places where you have parking and anywhere in town is next to impossible. So we explored it, looked and talked to the college. Again, they're still in not sure what they're doing with the university center. I went and explored that with their vice president. And again, in the end, I kind of feel like we're spending general fund dollars money that we really need for operations. And I believe this is an investment. If in the future the board decided to go in a different direction, I think it's space that many entities, I could see entities such as Big Brothers Big Sisters. Many of our partners that maybe lease space, I could very much see them interested in space, within some of TCAPS. We already for instance, at Traverse City High School, we have Generations Ahead that has space there, that we have. So I don't think that's something that in the future would go to waste. I think that's the biggest question, is when you're gonna invest $1.5 million in that. I don't believe it would at all. And again, it's 6 miles outside of town. When you look at across our district, we have, 15, 16,000 people in the city of Traverse City. Garfield Township itself is much larger. We have actually more people on the outskirts, and it's a little bit actually more central from that standpoint. And a base of our operations of transportation facilities, everything out there. So I think it's a good spot. I think it's an investment. We're still being very frugal. We're not adding big conference space. We're not adding those kind of things. And that's something in the future, I think the board, we think we have a space we could do smaller board meetings within the technology classroom there if we need to temporarily transform that. If not, we could move. There are many districts do them at high schools and those kind of things. Ty?
Yeah, and I guess that's what I was looking to hear for tonight, because I've been thinking about this in finance, but I'm happy to hear that this will be a permanent solution, not a stopgap between construction, and I love Christine saying 50 years. And that's and I know we can't control what other boards do, but I just want to talk like this will be our permanent headquarters.
That's my recommendation, Ty.
Yeah, and I changed my mind on moving out to Garfield is fine, as long as it doesn't hurt our families and our community members and staff. So I support it as long as, because we just approved 3.6. Right, 1.5, so 5 and 5.1, which is less than half of what was initially earmarked.
In which we're able, and I did that purposely because I wanted to make sure we have that other $5 million for some other projects that is important to our kids and our community. So we're still being very frugal. This is not Taj Mahal space, I can promise you, as far as what that is, and putting what's important to our kids. That's really important, I think, to the board and our administrative team, that, you know, we're not building something that's fancy, we're building stuff that's useful, and that's what this is.
And we're gonna be in it for 50 years.
Correct.
Okay.
Another question came up from the community, all of us, I think, got that. And it was when Scott suggested even looking at the third floor at Central Grade. And we had talked about that. Parking would be more of an issue, I would think, by a long shot.
And also you have kids in the building. And so from a safety and security standpoint of people coming in and out all the time, we have a lot of traffic in this building. We have a lot of different things with our SSN people. Today, we had Amazon in here delivering backpacks. We have people getting fingerprinted for human resources, contractors from the outside doing that. So I do worry about that. That's something, and Secretary Belanger and I have had that conversation many times about, you know, school safety. We're doing all this work, but like, it doesn't make sense to have people coming in and out of that same area. So I think that that third floor will get utilized. I think that, you know, we do not have conference room space in this district, you know, very much for a large professional development. You know, we're often having to try and get space at the resort or the ISD or different places, even for our own retreats. This is the biggest space we kind of have really had. So I think that when that's looked at and a part of that design, we have different thoughts of what that could be. I think the third floor will still be very useful. It has to be done. It has to be brought to code and that element. So I think that's something, as we get in design, we'll figure out that, but I personally don't think that that is a solution for an administrative office.
Anyway, like the same, we're back in the same place.
Exactly.
Just from a financial point of view, because I had a few community members ask me as well, but from just putting my finance hat on, is $1.5 million is a lot of money, and it sounds like a lot of money, but when you take the interest payment on the $1.5 million, it's around 50 grand a year ish. And if you look at renting, which is out of our bond funds, versus renting a spot for 4 to 5 years,
With general fund.
which is gonna come out of general fund, and I don't know, we've got a few real estate people put you on the spot, but I don't know what it is right now, like, well, 16, 17, 18 bucks a square foot for office? I don't
Per
know.
square foot?
Outside of town.
Okay.
Yeah.
So 18, 20 bucks, whatever, 20, 22, so that is over that dollar amount.
Mm-hmm.
So either way,
By a lot.
this is costing us less per year out of bond funds versus general funds that we're not taking out. So
And it's a permanent thing
and then you throw out that.
Again, my intent is we stay there for the long haul here, right? But again, I don't think it ever is is wasted space.
No,
That
and
you
that's
own.
right. So like, I think it's not even a temporary.
Correct.
We're spending more because it's gonna save us money in the long run.
Correct.
Yes, it is.
And I took a look at that route first. You might remember, I told all of you, I went look, in fact, Scott wasn't on the board yet. And we kind of worked towards it, and, you know, parking's often tough, or structures are old. So I firmly believe this is the best route for us to go.
Just one thing about childcare, down the road, cause I totally agree that, you know, we've just, it's a perennial issue that we have a shortage in this area. So between Oak Park and this building and Sabin, I mean, I could foresee one in-town location and then the Sabin location because of how huge our area is.
But I think having an east and a west kind of almost is a little bit, because our growing areas, I mean, if you think of Eastern, the size, like, you know, we have a lot of preschool there that, you know, is like, we're right around the corner could go, you know, and we're even kind of that whole Garfield corridor, like, look at all the housing that's being built out East Bay Township and that. So I think that element there, and then the in-town component here, I think, again. But, you know, I would say that I think there's a time to kind of talk about that. I don't think it's now. I think that we're a long ways away. I'm happy that, you know, I do think one of the things I'm thinking is maybe for a study session coming up, maybe to us, we haven't really done a lot with early childhood. I think it'd be good to have that conversation for the board to know what we do, what we have in all those aspects with that, to just kind of get that conversation going to know what we have. But I think, you know, we're probably a year or two down the road to really start that conversation,
Yeah, and
you know, what that looks like.
that's fine, I was just noting, based on the community interest and your interest in, you know, the long-term use and the early childhood, like, could Oak Park be the east location and Saban the west location, and then administration's back here as central.
You can do whatever you want,
Well, no,
but,
I'm
you
not
know,
pushing, I'm just
yeah.
saying like, again, how confident are we in this?
I just don't
as a
think
long-
that space would be, you'd have to re-renovate it and spend more money, from that, where here.
Which we want to avoid.
Right, which here is a little bit easier, obviously, we've done very little to make it, you all know, my office is a classroom with a desk, right? And so that's kind of the concept, we needed central grade to be able to move right back in here. So you would literally go from that right to moving it for early childhood programming, which is a lot easier than office spaces that are small and demolition. Like, the biggest piece of this, that to Scott's point, I don't wanna spend good money and tear it out in the future. That's the worst thing we can do with our vital resources, and this plan right now doesn't do that.
I also think it's important, not knowing trends with enrollment. I think it's critical to have this as an actual school building. We don't know where enrollment trends are gonna move in the future. And at some point, we've sold a lot of our extra school buildings. If we don't have schools ready to go to meet that demand, we'll be building new buildings. And so I caution against renovating this completely to be a permanent housing for administration for that reason.
Or in case of emergency.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, I'd like to speak up, and I'm gonna disagree with Ty where we agreed at finance. I think it's important for the administration of this school district to be within the confines of the city of Traverse City. It's expected from a lot of the taxpayers who are out there. It's the Traverse City public school system. However, I am in agreement with this proposal of moving out to Saban, but I don't want to plant my flag out there for the next 50 years. I think we ought to at least consider this as an alternative at some point in the future. And the reason I brought up Central Grade School is that is the historic epicenter of this school district.
Historic.
And there will be appropriate space on the third floor. We can talk about the upsides and the downsides, but I think it's an option we ought to consider. So, and I'm in the minority, so we'll move on with this.
5 years from now, when I'm retired, I'll come and say hi.
Say hi to you and.
Ty wanted to say
Do you
something.
have a comment?
Well, I mean, I think Josie hit on it, and I was about to make a motion, but I would like, and I saw Tammy sent out study sessions, and I would like to get this early childhood to talk about strategic goals for this building in Oak Park. Maybe not, we don't have to wait 2 years, but I think it is a piece of the puzzle. Because the only reason I'm gonna support this is that it is a permanent thing, and I'm with you. I wasn't initially crazy about moving out of the city. But I heard, and you guys changed my mind just like you changed your mind.
Yeah.
And I think if this makes sense in my mind, to keep this a school building to help meet the need for early childhood, childcare, Munson families. I know Haggerty may not come into town as much. But there is a need for in-town people who live in the township who come into the city to work.
And that might mean community partners. It may not mean even just TCAPS, right? Like, that's, Munson, has needs, different things. So I think it's a part of our community early childhood conversation in the future. But again, I think it'd be good for the board, in a study session here to learn a little bit more about our early childhood programming and kind of hear that. So I think that's kind of maybe a first step.
We are also now maintaining a list when we come up with these ideas, so Tammy, if you can add that to the list, and that way when we come around in January, we'll remember all of these conversations.
So with that, I'll make the move, the Board of Education approve additional funding amount of $1.5 million to support the scope change to the Saber Innovations funded by capital bond funds.
Okay, any further discussion? Second?
Second.
You a second? Alright, any further discussion? Alright, Tammy, can I have a roll call?
Trustee Schmidt?
Yes.
Trustee Moonmore?
Yes.
Trustee Bajeris?
Yes.
Trustee Ballinger?
Yes.
Trustee Hardy? Trustee Peck?
Yes.
And Trustee Newman Bale.
Yes, motion carries.
And we hope it comes in under budget.
Yep, continue the trend. Board policy, next item, board policy 5420, sex education, defined to Connie Taylor.
Yeah, so it is, trustee Moore had indicated, going back following our last meeting, we had a number of changes proposed by trustee Pack. And we had shared that, currently the policy as presented by Troon is required, and I went back and pulled all of the statutes, all of the information in that policy is required. if the district elects to provide sex education. What is mandatory by statute is the education on the communicable diseases. At some point previously, the board, the previous boards had made the decision for the district to offer the sex education. Because that's what's currently in place, that's how the policy needs to read. But I know we wanted to revisit, given this additional information, is that still the position of the board? And are there any other additional modifications to the policy, given the constraints that we have from a legal standpoint that you all might be okay with and recommend? So this is obviously your decision, but I wanted to bring it back in front of you for conclusion.
And for the record, the board has made that decision pass, so it doesn't take a reaffirmation by vote. You know, it's just, we wanna make sure legality. I misspoke, I knew that a long time ago, but that came back, but again, the communicable diseases and HIV/AIDS is required. So I just wanted to make sure to be correct in the record, and, but again, I've anticipated the board move forward. We follow all the rules as required once the board did elect that. So it really is, at this point, if the board's still good with that, it's the policy.
I have a few questions, of course. And one of them, starting with the top, communicable disease instruction. Can we add sexually transmitted communicable disease? And the reason is there are 12 sexually transmitted diseases, 12. There are hundreds of communicable diseases. To add sexually transmitted really focuses where the teaching is going to be.
I don't know, we can't, that's like one thing, we have to do the communicable diseases portion, which is defined.
It is defined in state standards,
By statute, yeah.
which the state board actually is visiting tomorrow in their state, in the agenda.
But they will also call it sexually transmitted diseases, and the Department of Statistics refers to it as sexually transmitted diseases.
The statute says.
Yeah.
The statute says communicable, but, you know, I can certainly circle back with, you know, with Troon to see if that's something that we're.
Put both of them together if you need to, but it'll be more exacting for a parent who's reviewing it, if you kind of clarify it right there.
Even though it's under 5420 sex education. any
Well,
communicable
it
diseases.
refers to it later on in the policy as sexually transmitted.
I may have a solution. The communicable disease is the minimal expectation of the law. So if you had that, and the board can go above and beyond at any time in your policy. So if you had that, and you could do that.
Right now, the statute calls it, it's like section 380.1169, refers to it as dangerous communicable diseases.
Well,
So you have to have that.
and a communicable disease is this is what the statute says, is an illness due to a specific infectious agent or its toxic products that result from transmission of that infectious agent or its products from a reservoir to a susceptible host, directly as from an infected individual or animal,
We're going into it.
or indirectly through the agency or intermediate plant. I actually thought this would actually make it easier. Clearly, that's their definition, or of an innate environment to this end.
Which is not what Beth's saying, but I think that if the board wanted to have that, that would just, we would make sure would be included in the sex education. If the board wanted to add that above and beyond.
Because communicable disease includes tuberculosis, Legionnaire's disease, mumps, measles, rubella, and so on and so on and so on. And in your second paragraph, under communicable disease instruction, right there, second paragraph, towards the end, it says something about a responsible and effective method of preventing sexually transmitted diseases. It doesn't say, again, back to the more nebulous communicable disease. So I'm just asking, add a couple words, point of clarification, you've killed two birds with one stone.
I just think "and" is important.
And I,
Agreed?
so you comfortable with it if we did it the way that John's proposing?
Yeah, I think that's fine.
Because I also do think that the definition now I'm reading it is comically one of the more like,
Oh, I care and all.
I read a lot of them, and that one's actually one of the better ones of like, I was like, as I was halfway through.
I think
was
if you
like,
say
okay.
and, the committee will just take that back knowing that's above and beyond what's under statute.
Providing it meets the statute.
And I do think you're going to be fine, because if you look at the statute, it does reference specifically HIV, you know, the sexually transmitted. So we are not under an obligation to is per, you know, trustee Pack's suggestion, to teach about tuberculosis or any, you know, any of those other communicable diseases. It is specific to those identified communicable diseases.
Is that what you're worried about, Beth, is teaching other communicable diseases?
No, I'm more concerned about the sexually transmitted.
I think
Specifically.
and you're the nurse, I'll defer.
You want it expressed.
About behavior.
Yeah.
And you're gonna talk about prevention more in a different way than you would talk about TB or Legionnaire's disease, which are airborne.
I just wonder, and I asked the question, because you're usually my technical person, there's more ways than one to get HIV, it doesn't always have to be sexually
That is
transmitted,
true,
it can be.
it's bloodborne.
Correct.
It's bloodborne. And actually, you know, I keep thinking, why isn't somebody talking about hepatitis B?
Well, we do talk about that with our teachers, they go through training and when we
I
talk
know,
about
that's
bloodborne
required.
pathogens, but yeah, that's different than what the statute is
So
trying to cover.
maybe that's why the statutory language doesn't say,
Sexually transmitted.
right, because HIV, I didn't think about that, the other pathways.
I'm gonna go back to,
But-
let's meet the
Did
statute.
you say it's serious? You said it defines it as a serious
Well, even in the under the statute, it references dangerous communicable diseases, HIV, virus infection specifically is called out from that. And then if you look at the policy under communicable diseases, the superintendent designee will ensure that students are taught about dangerous communicable diseases. So that word is in the first paragraph.
Mhm.
We've gone down
But
this rabbit hole twice.
In sex education, that is the direction you're gonna deal with it. You're not gonna be talking about blood transfusions in sex ed,
Oh, no,
I
maybe.
would think.
I think they
I
do.
do.
Mr. McGee does, actually.
They
Yeah,
can
I'm
mention
pretty
it,
sure
but
in that
they're
slideshow, they
spending
include
a
all
lot
of those on
time.
there.
Alright, so I'm okay, whatever.
I'm gonna make a motion, I move that the Board of
Wait,
Education,
no,
Well,
I've
yeah,
got
he
a
can
few
discuss
more.
after.
he can make that, there can still be discussion on
no
it.
one can second
Okay.
it, yeah.
Yeah.
So I move that the Board of Education approve policy 5420, sex education as amended.
Okay,
I'll second that.
a second, and we do discussion to,
Now you can
yeah, you can still discuss, it's just,
Okay. Then in B, that first paragraph, where it says, before revising curriculum about dangerous communicable diseases, the board will hold at least 2 public hearings occurring at least 1 week apart on proposed revisions. I would add the Board of Education then approves the final sex education curriculum, which is age appropriate and biologically accurate.
I don't know if we'll be the body to be making that determination personally, but,
Cause we do talk about age appropriate.
Yep, I guess there is, it's a discussion item, but if there's no other comments, there is a motion, everyone else.
I mean, I
have
would
any
just say,
conversation
Beth,
here?
that I understand what you're trying to add, but it is under the heading of revision to the materials and methods. So it's specifically outlining what and how the revisions are handled. It doesn't necessarily say that it will come before the board. It's saying how those revisions will be handled and presented to the board. So
Right.
I just don't wanna say something that was not included in that heading, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Cause then it goes on to explain the advisory board.
And then that's another question that I have, because the way this is written, it says we will create one, but there's one already in place. Are we gonna create another one?
No, it's already created. You have to start it.
Exactly. So the board will authorize the continuance of is more accurate to what is actually the situation here in TCAPS. We're not creating new boards.
That's semantics, but
I don't think annually you have to reauthorize the the board.
But that's her.
Well, we don't recreate it.
No, once it's
annually.
been originally created, it just continues
But
without any
this-
additional board action, and at one point, it was created by the
Yeah.
board. So I think this is intended to say that when that board is originally implemented, it is created by the board.
Or the board created, or something, but this sounds very futuristic. I think it's confusing if you don't know what's going on.
So just as a point of clarification here, there's a motion on the table that has to be voted on one way or the other, which is to accept it as is. I don't necessarily disagree with Beth's last point on creation versus continuance.
Nature versus nurture.
Yeah, like but if that was the case, then we would have to strike down the motion that's on the table and we could reintroduce it with that change, or the board can choose to just vote it in as is. I personally do agree that there could be clarification. I think it is a little semantic, but I don't mind either way. But as a point of order, I cannot make that change without voting on the existing motion.
You want-
Well, I think we
We have a first and a second,
Or you have a first and a second?
Yeah, we'll go first and a second, so it's
You
on the
want
table.
somebody to call the question?
No, I'm just saying that is the process. I'm gonna call a roll call vote unless there's any other discussion. I'm just letting you know what your vote is.
That's fine.
If you feel like that it can go back and clarify it immediately afterwards, and then we vote no, and then do that afterwards. If you want it as is, you would vote
And you
yes.
can do it either way. You can pass it and pass another revision.
You could also pass it and pass another revision as well, but it wouldn't be a discussion. Potentially, we'd have to have a motion
To change the
to
agenda.
change the agenda to add it as another, which would, so.
So,
Move to a vote.
Scott,
So we're
can
gonna
I-
be, yes.
Can
so
I
we're
just,
gonna
I
do-
wanted to ask for,
Yep.
per discussion, I just want to ask Ms. Taylor a question. Is there perhaps like alternative language that would cover, you would just, instead of saying creating or continuing, like a sex education advisory board will annually report to the board on the following, and then you just keep all these clauses the same, or like a sex ed advisory board will exist too. I mean, something like that's just acknowledges there's an existence of this
think the
board,
motion
but
is-
it
So the motion-
removes the whole tense
But again,
of-
if that's the way you wanna go, then you would
Yeah.
vote no on this and we can.
Well, I wanna find out before I vote if that
I
even
just,
exists,
I would be really
if that
careful
legal
from
language
changing
exists.
what is legislatively written.
The statute says that the board will create, and so basically what Sharon has done is take the statutory language and drop it into a policy form,
Yeah,
so
yeah. And this is
Again-
probably not the only policy we have that says something like
Right,
this.
and again, if you wanted to add a word, it's better than changing a bunch of words.
And we can also leave, literally, if we wanted to, we can come back to it, and literally bring it back with another change, with that proposed change if we wanted to
Oh,
as well.
please, let's not do that.
Well,
I
I've
just
given the
suggest.
options, and I guess at this point,
From a legal, if you're asking my legal opinion, my suggestion is unless you're substantively changing the nature of the policy based on a new direction of the board, this is statutory language and it is semantics, if we really want to, or clarity. And I don't know that, this language was in Neola too, that I've never heard from a community member or anyone saying, I don't understand the policy or the role of the advisory board. But that is completely, that is your discretion. So I would speak to substantive changes. That would not be a substantive change, that would be a preference on the part of the board.
so with that, Tammy, please conduct a roll call vote.
Trustee Schmidt,
Yes.
trustee Hardy,
Aye, with all due respect to Beth.
trustee Bajeris,
Yes.
trustee Ballinger,
Yes,
trustee Moon Moore,
Yes.
trustee Pack,
No,
trustee Newman Bell.
Yes, with the same comment, I don't disagree with that last part, so motion carries.
For consolation prize, we will have the conversation with True to see if that's ever been thought of or doing.
I was gonna ask, because it does make sense.
well, it's sort of ironic that here you have a board whose, one of their two primary functions is to do policy, and yet we are so hamstrung in doing it correctly and doing the language correctly. And so I guess, this is where,
I promise you, I'll have the conversation.
thank you.
Okay, moving on to ratification of contracts. Next discussion, or next agenda item is the contract ratification for Dr. Wagner.
Yes, so we've had the chance to have conversations with the board on contract ratifications. And so I'm going to pass it over to Connie Taylor and Christine Thomas Hill to take the board through the discussion on the various contracts that the board would be under consideration for tonight.
So obviously, we had had an opportunity during closed session to go through the summaries of our tentative agreement. So unless there's additional questions, I don't know that we need to redo those here at the board meeting. But I'll certainly be open to any questions that you may have. But prior to doing that, I just wanted to say thank you. I'm speaking on behalf of our team, but we are absolutely a team at the table. So thank you to Erica Lottie, who's also a member of the management team, who's meeting with our associations, but I want to do a huge shout out to the members of the negotiation teams for our various units. For our TCEA teacher unit, Chandra Fless, who's here with us today as our president, Ben Zenner, Courtney Dedman, Andy Hayes, Stephen Rubinis, and Mike Livingood. A lot of time, we've been at this since February, having these dialogue and ongoing meetings, and as always, I'm thankful for the collaboration. For our TCAPS support unit, Liz Yarch, Laura Ashton, Jen Kateria, Kim Bales, Jill Jenkins, and Andrea King. For our transportation unit, Jeannie Kraus and Jesse Schaub. And then overall, our UniServe director for those MEA units that I just mentioned, Mary Mickey Cullen, she's always pivotal at coming to the table and assisting all parties in getting to a fair and equitable agreement for both the district and for our units. And then for our other units, our food service group, John LaBarbera and Sue Wilkins. Our administrative unit, Ben Berger, Joe Esper, and Victoria Dirks. And then last but not least, our AFSCME unit, Jeff Adamick and Gary Gavin. The conversations were always very productive moving forward. And so we're grateful for that strong union relationship. And as we've shared with you, the terms of the agreement, we would highly recommend that the board approve the tentative agreements with those units. But having said that, I will open that if there's any questions about what we had covered previously.
I have only one question in the effort to be transparent. These agreements are public documents, are they not? Should someone request to see these?
Once ratified, we are required to post them on our transparency reports. So we have been, kind of in anticipation and hopefulness of the board's approval, been working on those so that we can get those not only on our website, but distributed to all of the members. So yes, those are public documents and open to the community.
I move that the Board of Education ratify the contract extensions for the Traverse City Education Association, the TCEA, as presented.
I second that.
Okay. Just there is, are we good to move on all of them, one after the other, just for efficiency?
I think it's smoother.
It is.
Yeah.
No, I'm fine to do that. I just wanted to make sure that we can go through it.
Wait, what do you mean, one at a time?
One at a time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was like, should I
No,
retract
you're
my motion? Okay,
perfect.
okay.
I was just confirming we're
I
good.
can lump it all.
Alright, Tammy, please conduct a roll call vote.
Trustee Moon
Yes.
Trustee Bajeris?
Yes.
Trustee Ballinger?
Yes.
Trustee Hardy?
Aye.
Trustee Pack?
Yes.
Trustee Schmidt?
Yes.
Trustee Newman Bale?
Yes, motion carries. Next discussion item, and that was where I was kind of clarifying, is there any further discussion on any?
Can I just make one point? I also wanna thank the board for the support, because having 3-year contracts with staff really, really helps with morale. It helps with recruiting and retaining staff. It also helps with budgeting. I think that we've done a good service to our employees by committing to them, and I just wanna thank you guys for supporting us.
Thank you, everyone.
It's because it's in our strategic plan.
I move that the Board of Education ratify the contract extensions for the Traverse City Administrators Association, TCAA, as presented.
Second.
Alright, any discussion? Tammy, please conduct a roll call vote.
Trustee Schmidt?
Yes.
Trustee Moon
Yes.
Trustee Bajeris?
Yes.
Trustee Ballinger?
Yes.
Trustee Hardy?
Aye.
Trustee Pack?
Yes.
Trustee Newman Bale?
Yes, motion carries. Next discussion item or next motion?
I move that the Board of Education ratify the contract extensions for the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, AFSCME, as presented.
A second.
Alright, Tammy, please conduct a roll call vote.
Trustee Moon
Yes.
Trustee Ballinger.
Yes.
Trustee Bajeris.
Yes.
Trustee Hardy.
Aye.
Trustee Pack.
Yes.
Trustee Schmidt.
Yes.
And Trustee Newman Bell.
Yes. Motion carries. Next.
I move that the Board of Education ratify the contract extensions for the Food Service Employee Association, the FSEA, as presented.
I second.
Tammy, please conduct a roll call vote.
Trustee Moon
Yes.
Trustee Bajeris.
Yes.
Trustee Ballinger.
Yes.
Trustee Hardy.
Aye.
Trustee Pack.
Yes.
Trustee Schmidt.
Yes.
Trustee Newman Bell.
Aye. Motion carries. Next, contract.
I move that the Board of Education ratify the contract extensions for the Traverse City Clerical Assistants, Paraprofessionals, and Secretaries Association to CAPSA as presented.
Second.
Second. Tammy, please conduct a roll call vote.
Trustee Ballinger.
Yes.
Trustee Moon
Yes.
Trustee Bajeris.
Yes.
Trustee Hardy.
Aye.
Trustee Pack.
Yes.
Trustee Schmidt.
Yes.
And Trustee Newman Bell.
Yes, motion carries. Next discussion item. Your next motion.
I move that the Board of Education ratify the contract extensions for the Traverse City Transportation TCTA Association as presented.
I second.
Alright, Tammy, please conduct a roll call vote.
Trustee Moon
Yes.
Trustee Bajeris.
Yes.
Trustee Ballinger.
Yes.
Trustee Hardy.
Aye.
Trustee Pack.
Yes.
Trustee Schmidt.
Yes.
And Trustee Newman Bell.
Yes, motion carries. Final contract.
I move that the Board of Education ratify the contract extensions for the non-affiliated administrative and non-affiliated support staff as presented.
Second.
Second. Tammy, please conduct a roll call vote.
Trustee Moon
Yes.
Trustee Hardy.
Aye.
Trustee Bajeris.
Yes.
Trustee Ballinger.
Yes.
Trustee Pack.
Yes.
Trustee Schmidt.
Yes.
And Trustee Newman Bell.
Yes, motion carries. Alright, thank you everyone, that concludes that section. And after the quick fire round, we will now move on to the strategic plan and defer to Dr. Mary Whiteman.
Real quick, we added,
Oh. No.
yes, strategic plan E, sorry, I
Yep.
missed it, yeah.
Are we doing that before CKLA?
Yes,
Okay.
just because that's why I put it as a
So, okay, so we are at a point with the strategic plan. We also, it was asked that we take a look again at the vision and values. This is the document that we had from the study session. Tammy also sent you a copy, it was also posted into our packet online earlier today. So there was some thoughts about some addition of language. Might be easiest, Tammy, you wanna pull up can you pull up the document?
Is that what this is?
Yeah, the mission and vision statements.
So Tammy, earlier today, I had her take what was already there and add in and read what you're seeing there from that standpoint. And so the question is we kind of left this right there. We didn't take it any further, so the question is this what we want to adopt? Is there still any wordsmithing wants to be done? It's just a conversation of the board's purview of where you want to go with this.
The only, I'm colorblind, so I can't really see the red, but,
Just behind you too.
okay.
Yeah,
This doesn't usually help. The only, I love that we consolidated the values, so we have less than we did before. I still love the vision that we relentlessly support all kids. If you just scroll down, under leadership, the only thing that I consider adding, to honor Holly and her work with sustainability. John gave a report out during finance that we are pursuing a climate action plan for the very first time as a district. And, the word sustainability isn't mentioned in there. I think it would be a nice touch if it is gonna be a focus of ours for the foreseeable future. So something after mindfulness and sustainable practices. I think it would be a nice nod to Holly's leadership.
And I'll just add that during one of those strategic planning sessions, I had put sustainability up on the board, and I literally was the only person who voted for it. But I'm happy to add it in like we did with the fiscally responsible manner. So under integrity or leadership, but either way, I fully support. I'm very proud of that work too.
I mean, I totally agree with what Josie's saying. We went through that process and included all the voices at the table to really narrow down what those areas were, and there was a sustainability sticker, tab, and yeah, I mean, there was one tab.
You just didn't vote for it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think nobody, maybe it was overlooked accidentally, I mean, because we do still have a sustainability committee, it is true.
And I don't disagree that that's not something that's important to TCAPS, but does it fall into this level of importance of our values and how we're gonna outline them to our community? It's just my only thought on that.
Beth, you've also served on the sustainability.
Briefly. It seems to me it's a matter of stewardship as much as it is sustainability. Because we're constantly renovating things or doing something along that line, and so again, it's stewardship for your resources to the greater good across your district. Within the community. You're not gonna sustain certain things that make no sense, God willing.
I'll just add that we do have a sustainability committee, and I'm just gonna read the definition of sustainability is the capacity for a system to maintain itself over a long period by meeting present needs without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. And again, we do have a sustainability committee. We are working on a climate action plan. And if it's not a value, then I would reconsider us having a sustainability committee, I guess. Because if it's not what we wanna focus on, then we can leave it out.
So I remember you, Scott Newman Bale, came up with it in a fiscally responsible manner.
That was to eliminate another item, I think. Wasn't there like a
Well, that
sixth?
removed the goal that was around finance. That moved us from 12 focus areas to 5, which I support, it's in our values. That it wasn't a value initially, it was a goal.
That's right. And so at the time I thought, why not say in a fiscally responsible and sustainable manner? To me, that would be the easiest fix here, period.
That would fit in. That's kind of where we were going as well, I guess.
That's fine too.
Can you say that again, Josie?
Just the integrity, the third bullet, operating with honesty, transparency, and fairness in a fiscally responsible and sustainable manner.
Can you just add that right now?
I can live with
Well, I don't have the type, I just have the mouse. Wait, maybe I can, hold on.
Don't do it in red.
Can't see it.
Yeah, we put it in, Ty.
I'm colorblind too.
It's in white.
And fiscally and sustainably.
Sustainable.
Sustainable.
Fiscally, just.
Oh, it wants to look like that.
I think it's
I
fiscally.
I thought it was fiscally responsible and sustainable.
You don't wanna hear, okay.
Whoever said it, it worked when you used
Fiscally responsible and
Sustainable.
sustainable manner. She's got it.
responsible.
Yeah.
And take the and out and
Oh, yeah.
up.
I got it.
All right. Good job, Howard.
Good one.
Good job.
The pressure.
Let me ask one question, and this has something to do with sustainable. I don't have a clue what mindfulness means.
There's a whole body of work around that.
Well, there may be, but I can guarantee you the general public won't know what mindfulness.
There's a lot
I
to
mean,
do.
it's probably auditory. I'm
Yeah,
not
you'd be
saying-
surprised. There's been a ton of work, especially in corporate America on it.
Alright, okay. I'm
And
just
you're out
telling
of
you.
corporate America too.
I'm part of corporate, just a small part of corporate America.
Yeah,
I just,
I hear you.
I don't know when we've gotten to meeting that objective.
We have, and we will invite you to some of our mindfulness work.
If I have to go to that to understand what it means.
It'll be great.
I'm just saying, there's a bunch of people.
I think Sarah could really speak well to some of it.
Go ahead,
You
Sarah.
want me to give you the AI overview? The state of active non-judgmental awareness of one's present moment experiences, including thoughts, emotions, bodily sensations, and external stimuli. It involves paying attention to the present moment without getting caught up in the thoughts about the past or future or judging one's experiences.
Similar to.
It's something that the elementary schools used a lot with.
Okay.
And I'm only speaking from elementary level, I'm guessing middle school and high school use as kind of a reset, downtime.
If you all.
It's a good question. I asked it during the workshop too. I asked the same question.
It's new math, Scott.
Okay.
No, there's no math.
We're not mindful in math.
It's the idea of awareness, right? Being aware of your actions, your impact to others,
You being part of a bigger community, right?
So like a holistic approach is what we would use for lines, but yeah.
I don't disagree with the intent, it just sounds like Ed speak to me, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm not in your ballpark on that one. We don't use it in healthcare.
I don't use it in real estate. Maybe use it, but I
Wow,
don't.
I would think with like mental health care.
Mental health care, absolutely.
You may use it in mental health, perhaps, but you know, if you're looking holistically at someone, that's just more terminology, I think. I don't know if it's real helpful in
Man, are you getting invited to the next PD on that?
Well, here I care about word usage in the sex ed, but then we end up in communicable disease, which is very nebulous, so. It's not nebulous, it's far less exacting than what I was asking.
So just before we continue this, just to back up a second, we are okay with the, fiscally responsible and sustainable manner. I know that you were, that work for everyone?
That's been around longer.
Alright, okay, I just wanted to at least clarify.
Integrity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's then, now back to the other one, I just wanted to close one out.
Could I just, about the fourth bullet, inclusive community, I mean, everything else, except for students first, which I like as is just a noun, and that's an adjective and a noun. You know, I just wondered, why is it inclusive community as opposed to inclusiveness? Does anybody remember the origin story of how we got to adding the community?
I'm having a hard time following what you're saying.
Yeah.
Well, just the parallelism of excellence, integrity, leadership, and then it's inclusive community instead of inclusiveness as a noun.
It's been brought up a couple of times in
Okay,
the
I
past
don't-
3 years, to be honest with
Yeah.
you. And I didn't have an answer other than that's what the board did.
Back in the, you mean
The original,
Administration
when we first started, when we first came up with it.
yeah, the staff wondered what,
Yeah, I've just had a few people over the last 3 years that mentioned that to me.
like,
I feel like I
inclusiveness should have maybe
Yeah.
been the fix.
I feel,
Yeah.
I feel like this is true, but I'm not totally sure, but I feel like it was inclusiveness. And then we had lots of other groups that we were worried that it was inclusiveness sounds like a very narrow focus when we were talking about community stakeholders like businesses and everything else. So we had like a bigger section at one point.
Well, we had an inclusive value and a community value, and I believe during the workshop, we wanted fewer values, so we combined those two
Yes.
values.
Okay, so that was what, because we had we had two, so we were
So
trying to get.
inclusive was ensuring equitable access and acceptance for all, and community was connecting with each other.
So we
and
could
our
make it
community is certain.
inclusiveness, and we have captured the community there in red, that last word, in the description.
And just take community out.
Yeah, just say inclusiveness.
I think again,
It's
which I'm
broad.
fine with, but I think the reason is that the original intent was, it was a big focus on all the stakeholders.
And it says greater community, the last word is community, so the word community is twice there.
It is, yeah, I'm fine with it, but that's why.
I think it'd be nice to just be more concise.
Wanna do that?
And we're, I first think of the students and the staff with
I support that,
inclusiveness and
Josie.
then community.
Yep.
You want this to say?
Inclusiveness. So then mindfulness, in or out?
I'm fine with it, but
I like it.
I do too.
I really like it. In a lot of different mental health readings, that it's a very, very, very common of awareness. It's,
Okay.
which I think.
I think we have a
Yeah,
majority there.
yeah, I think it's
we
nice
at
and
this point?
concise, nice and concise.
Do we feel good? Do we feel good with this at this point?
I did with the third graders.
Okay, and so I think we're good there. We'll incorporate, have those changes on it. And so going back to the strategic plan, there's only one little, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, there's one little change we made. Beth had brought up in curriculum, and Josie, we've talked about this quite a bit, about a metric for our special education students. One that is very, very important to many of our parents in the special ed community is you'll hear about the testing of My Access versus taking the M-STEP or SAT, those elements. One thing that the state has put a lot of focus on is for us to not have any more than 1% of our students take the alternative assessment. They want us to really work hard to try and get every kid to have the opportunity in a least restrictive environment concept to take that state test. And so this is a metric we thought we have to do. We have been above that in the past. We've just recently gotten there, but it's hard. We have to continually stay focused on it. So talking with Tiffany, this is one we thought would be a very important metric to have in there.
And what's the baseline?
We're at 1% now, which is really what the state has targeted to do and really feel strong. But we have been above that, and there have been trends across the state of that going back up. And so we just think to have a focus on that number, especially for our parents of students with special needs, that we monitor that and that we talk to the board about that and continually have that at the forefront of our conversations.
Yep, and I guess I
think
don't,
it's a great idea.
yeah, I just didn't know what this one area that I'm not as familiar with.
Which is why we thought, and Beth brought up, I think honoring, that, because, what you get into is a lot of assessing kids and the point of having our students in least restrictive environments is to give them as much possible full access to the curriculum. And if you're going to give them as much full access to the curriculum as you can, you obviously want to give them the absolute full access to the assessment that's proper that you can. Now, through an IEP process and that element, there are times where it is not, proper to have a kid take that, to do My Access is what we call it. But in the state in the past, that they felt that, and the feds have also felt across our state, there's been too much of a reliance on having kids not reach to that potential. And so, and especially with our special education parents, this is an important metric that we're trying to consistently be at that 1% or less. But again, you don't want to get so much where kids are being forced to do something that's not a part of their IEP goals, not a part of that process that is in place with our ISD, our special education partners. So this is one that we felt was a good metric to always have the board and publicly talk about so the board's aware.
Yeah, I think it's great to have that special ed piece, and I do remember Beth brought this up, and then I'm remiss that I didn't catch it in the earlier versions of the strategic plan measures to ask, but I guess even I am not clear on what are the levers to get to less than 1%, what does that really, what can the district do to really change it?
What we have to do is make sure that we are constantly making sure that our kids are in the least restrictive environment, that we're making sure that, really challenging and making sure the IEP team is consistently looking at what can we do to make sure kids are giving every opportunity to that LRE. And in doing so, also a part of that IEP team is exhausting to make sure that at every point that we're giving the kid the opportunity to take that state assessment versus the My Access. And if anything, just a public metric that we're consistently trying to work at that. And at any point we're above that 1%, it's a conversation that the board needs to have with administration of what are we doing to making sure every kid's getting that opportunity, that least restrictive environment, and that the IEP team is really taking that under consideration.
John, forgive me, I'm gonna be a very simple person here. Least restrictive translates to meaning these kids are in the classroom with all the other kids, is what you're talking about.
Correct. We're not putting them in a self-contained and all that element. It's putting them, making sure they're getting access to the classes to.
That they're in the classroom
Yes.
where the other kids are.
Correct. Now,
Got that.
not always Absolutely, you know, like, but you wanna, under IDEA, you are always obligated to make sure, and again, I always take the approach, if it's my child, it's anybody's child or relative, you want them to have the best opportunity they can to succeed, and it's very clear, like, making sure, if at all possible, to have that child in the LRE is what we always wanna strive to do, and this is the corresponding assessment to that.
You know, I think this is, from my perspective, a really important goal, because one of the differentiators from TCAPS to some of the charter schools and the other schools is this is an area of focus for us, and we're not only focusing on it, but we're tracking it to make sure that kids succeed in this. And if I'm a parent of a special ed kid, this is really important. I wanna know you're tracking all kids.
Right.
And their performance to know that what we're doing is succeeding.
And you're not putting someone over in the corner.
Correct.
Correct.
And that's exactly what this is about.
We're singling them out and.
Right, exactly.
No, I
And
think it's.
I'd like a second thing I was thinking about that, and that is, Dan and I didn't have very much time right before the meeting, but I think that, you know, when we were talking about looking at growth, we need to look at growth in tier 2 and look at growth in tier 3 and see how they're growing even within the tier. So that, are there kids that will actually, can you begin to transition them out? Are you able to reduce those tiers down because kids are catching up?
Yeah, that's a natural process of the IEP. When we look at growth in tier 3, we look at how a student progresses towards their goals. So that's the idea, is that they continue to progress towards their goals, and then once they meet their goals, they move out of tier 3 and out of that IEP, so.
And it would be lovely to see if we're actually moving in that direction.
We could get that in our curriculum committee report outs when we do data sharing. You know, once or twice a year.
Because in an RTA response to intervention MTSS model, right, that is, the goal is to get kids 80% into tier 1, right?
Right.
We're not there. So that's the metric you wanna try and reach, is 80% of kids are getting and responding and achieving, you know, in your tier 1 viable curriculum, right? And tier 2 and tier 3 help support to try and do that.
Well, that's their purpose.
So I think visiting and, you know, talking about that, our MTSS system, and talking about that in our curriculum committee is the way to go about that.
That's not a legal requirement, not a state legal requirement to
No,
reach
it's
that.
an educationally sound practice.
You know, I would like to thank Jesse and Dan and everybody else, that whole pyramid of people I'm sure that's underneath you, for getting us to this point. Because from my perspective, the biggest problem with strategic planning is you can't measure anything. I mean, it's all well-intended and they're great goals, but this has some very specific accomplishments that can be measured. And I know it's a risk, because I'm hoping we hit every one of these, but we're stretching your staffs and the admin teams too that also have to work on this, so thank you.
But the other thing it does is it begins to narrow your focus, so you could say, well, this is the problem area where we need to, it gives us more guidance in how to begin to help some of these kids. You know, whether they're falling behind just because of absenteeism, or they're falling behind because they didn't understand it for whatever, or their attention span, it begins to give you something to address to hopefully affect a difference, to be innovative. And when we look at using testing for all of our assessment of how well we're doing, I was thinking there are 3 or 4 caveats that I think are important. Cause I think a lot of times testing is like trying to drive a car forward by looking in the rearview mirror. Because you're always looking at something that has happened. And sometimes it's almost in the prior year and you've got a new group of kids. So you have to be careful how you run some of that in. Testing's been done for decades. And our results are getting worse. They haven't made the difference in the results. The third thing is, we don't really know what the tests are like. Are they actually a good representation of understanding? I don't know. And then the fourth concern I have is you've heard about teaching to the test. And you'd want kids to actually have a broad enough understanding of the material that they can use practical application at some point, not just answer A, B, C, D. That they can actually use this for a career or for life in general. You know, it's not mindfulness, but it's actually a practical skill or idea or concept that they can apply. And so I think somehow we have to be careful when we really focus in on tests, that we keep those elements, I don't know what else to call them right now, in our heads as well. Caveats.
Oh, yeah, no, that's great.
I'm ready to approve this tonight. I think it's great. And I just want to acknowledge all the work that's gone into it, staff, but also the community, all the surveys, all the students taking surveys, the community members. In particular, I've mentioned this before, but I think this is the first time as a district that I remember that we have explicit goals around our kids furthest from opportunity. So I'm really very proud of that. And I just want to, again, I've talked about Holly before, but Holly was integral at pushing for that agenda item back in February. So I appreciate her passion and work for these kids. The curriculum team has taken it and ran with it, and we've talked about more about economically disadvantaged kids in the past few months than I ever remember. So I very much appreciate that. And then I did notice that we shifted from LEAP registrations to % of students involved with co-curriculars, which I also appreciate and support, so thank you for that. But I'm ready to approve this tonight.
Yeah, I want to add two more things in mental health.
Well, you can have the discussion, so definitely bring them up. We haven't got a motion yet.
Right, but
Go ahead.
when we're talking about approving. One is, I would like to continue to follow the cell phone and social media impact. And that would be in mental health in goal number 2. Another thing I think is to really look at how we use AI. Particularly when you're looking at individualized work. So to turn down the use of AI, say that you cannot use it when completing projects, papers, things that should show independent work. Use AI constructively for evaluating how well you're doing your homework or language communication, set up a dialogue with AI and see how far you can carry a foreign language discussion. But don't use AI as a crutch. And I think that there's more and more evidence that's coming up with be very careful, particularly in youngsters when they're trying to develop pathways for logic in the way they process information. Don't close circuit it. Does that make sense? I think that's what the MIT study was about. When they were saying, they use this open-ended essay question, they told a group of kids, you can use AI to answer the question. They told the other group of kids, you absolutely cannot. And then when they came back and asked the kids if they could remember what they wrote, the kids that used AI could not. The kids who actually developed an argument, they could remember why and what they said. So I think we need to have something that addresses AI because AI is here.
I mean, I don't think it is a place for our strategic plan right now. I think that could be something we did have this one study session.
We did.
And I think we were pretty comfortable with how administration were kind of using it. And I think it's gonna be an object, or a subject that we talk about probably every year, or every meeting. So I think that would be in a discussion on a revision. I don't think we're in a place. I think you would be derailing, we could talk about everything we need to do in a strategic plan, but at some point we just have to.
I do wonder, your first one with cell phone, under our mental health and that element is a as a strategy, we can take a look at.
Yeah.
As a strategy.
Because I think a lot of what you said is
That,
strategy.
that's built into that goal.
Okay.
There's a lot about mental health right now with cell phone use and social media and that element.
Yeah, but
So
it's picked
I
up
think that's
steam.
more of a strategy for us to take a look at than a separate goal, so.
Yeah.
Okay.
And speaking of those, I mean, I'm glad you brought up the strategies and activities, cause those are, I understand those are fluid.
Yep.
So, but I just would, like, if we cause that's not part of the document we're approving tonight, but
At some point, we're gonna take a shot at those, and then I'll be looking for feedback from board members.
okay. And I was just gonna say, I mean, was it a year ago when we looked at the AI policy and so forth? And I'll tell you, it just seemed so far-fetched to me at the time, and now it's like, boom, we're all using Copilot and ChatGPT and
I'm not.
everybody and their brother and their father, and I mean, seriously, it's just, it's moving so fast. I personally wouldn't mind revisiting that. I know there's some teachers who have expressed some concerns. So that might be a study session.
Which is why I
topic.
said, like, I feel like it's gonna be back
down
up
the
in a study
road.
session and,
Yeah.
I don't think we're at a position to put any meaningful measures of something to do with AI, so that's.
I agree. John, or someone, could you just speak to the bullet item under goal 2 that Ty just mentioned about the, that second bullet, the 75% of second to 12th graders being involved in co-curriculars and 65% of economically disadvantaged students? That was a change I noticed from version 2 and version 1, where it had been K through 8 increased by 20% and 9 through 12 by 5.
I think that was what this is the kind of goal that we wanted, but we were concerned about tracking.
Right, so we, after we got through the last round, Dan and I met with Sophie, who helps us with our data. We also met with each of our building principals, sort of high school, middle school, and elementary, went through these as well, and we kind of we're hearing that it's more than just LEAP, right? There's other ways in which kids can be connected to school. And so we developed a strategy to be able to track this. It's something the high schools have been tracking, more so for communication purposes. So middle school principals are taking on that challenge, and then Dan's gonna work with his elementary principals. We felt like that the grade 2nd and up was more age appropriate, right? I'm not necessarily sure if we want kindergartners to extend their days after they've been at school for 7 hours, because they're pretty exhausted after that. So we're really gonna look to track that for 2nd through 12th grades, and we feel like we will be able to pull that out of Power School. We also, kind of staying with that theme of our economically disadvantaged students, we want them connected at a high rate or at the same rate as the rest of our students. We have 65%, that's one that our baseline is just high school students, because those are the only students we tracked it on prior years. So we're hoping that now that we've got a system to track that, and we've got all of our building principals and AAs knowing how to do that, that we'll be able to update that as we work through this plan.
'Cause I do like that a lot more, because to Ty's point, I think one of the, it's great, fine and great to say that we want them to participate or have a participation at an equivalent rate, but we obviously know there's barriers, and so this acknowledges them, and I think that, I don't know what the baseline is of how bad it is right now, but I'm pretty
I
confident.
don't either, we kind of took a shot at 65%. I mean, I'd love for us to say that our students, no matter what background they come from, they all participate at the same rate, right? That would be the ideal. So those might have to get adjusted after we sort of track this year and see where we actually are at.
Yeah, with
We
that.
did pull, just as some interesting data for LEAP, we did pull, Traverse Heights ran a program where they had a donor cover, the free and reduced rate for all Traverse Heights kids at the elementary. We did see an uptick from when that was done this year to previous years of about a 25 to 30% increase in participation. So
That was all kids though, not just free and reduced.
it was,
But they all are, because they're a CEP, they all
Traverse
qualify.
Heights automatically gets, the whole school does get that rate.
Yeah.
But
Which is
even
really
that-
cool of Heights, by the way.
Yeah.
Yes, and that rate was waived, so it's interesting, I know Ty's addressing, but when we start to look at future budget planning and LEAP and kind of going back full circle, there was a time I was part of West Middle when LEAP wasn't called LEAP, but K-8 athletics were not pay to play. And then we had our budget cut, I think, in $500,000 in 2015, and then this is why we're here now. So again, to look, to kind of go back and give those opportunities for all kids, it makes a big difference. We
And
have
I'll say
thousands of
too-
kids participating.
Yeah, and our principals are super excited to track this because what we have done at the high schools in prior years when we track this is we would pull a list. We primarily focused in on our ninth grade students, those that were trained. And then we would say, okay, out of this list of 35 kids who are, you know, maybe this kid is doing ice skating. Okay, so they've got something going. And maybe this kid's in Boy Scouts. Okay. And then we could get down to about 16 to 18 kids that we were like, we need to make a really concerted effort to make sure that we know these kids and these kids feel like they have a connection, or how do we make sure that they know about all the options? It was a nice way for us to kind of track that and find kids that maybe needed a little more assistance connecting, so.
Yeah, and I've said this before, I'll say it again, the success or failure of this plan is going to rest with most of the kids that are in the middle. They don't have their own advocacy group and aren't accelerated learners and need this more than anything, and it's hard to identify them sometimes. So it's gonna depend on teachers and staff and administrators to search those kids out sometimes to be able to get them connected.
Yeah, I think that one of the things that I'm really excited about this plan isn't just the metrics, is that Dan and I have gone through and made sure that we've got a way to track all of these. Like, what are the ways in which we've got systems in place to track these, and then how do we pull the data on regular intervals to figure out how are we doing towards them? And we can sit here and say, we actually have a way to track all of these. We feel pretty good about that.
And bring it to the classroom level. I think for the first time in a while, strategic plan that that buildings can relate to, admins can get in front of leadership teams, and we can pinpoint this all the way from this big data we're looking at now to how each individual kid, you know, that are in that low to low average that we talk about on a strategic plan for looking at, for learning and growing, is we can find those kids.
Yeah, we've already taken this document, you'll see this in future meetings, I'm foreshadowing here, and we've pared it down for high school. So high schools have a version of this with just their goals on it, so it's much streamlined and it really helps their staff focus in on, you know, instead of having their document, instead of having 6 student achievement goals, it has 2. Because there's only 2 that really directly tie to high school, and middle school has the same, and Dan's doing the same with elementary, and then underneath that, we're working on what are the strategies that we're gonna create at those different levels, because they're a little bit different. And then we added a box that said, what are your needs to reach and make these strategies come to life? And so they're excited about sort of having goals that they feel like they can own and that relate to their level of work with kids, so.
And I think to Ty, I think you gave told me a good speak, something I've heard before, but obviously I do not expect us to hit every single one of these goals, and if we did, we probably failed in setting the goals because we clearly didn't aim high enough. So I am really
We will
proud of the
revisit
group.
that yearly.
Well, we're revisiting yearly, but the point is that they should be difficult, and with this many goals, there could be some misses, and the idea is to break that down and say, what, you know, was it just unrealistic? Did we do something wrong? What was the point? And that's equal part of the plan.
Well, and I think even in measurement, right, like you can lay out a measurement plan, you can track it, but not until you're really doing it to say, are we really measuring what we're trying to achieve here? And you might have to adjust those things, you know, and so there's, you know, there's gonna be some really straightforward things, but then there's gonna be some things that are gonna be harder, you know, harder to track.
When you turn up white over a rock and you find another problem that
That's right.
we're gonna have to address, and it's gonna take a little time.
That's right.
It's fundamental to everything.
Yeah.
One thing about this goal too, so I mean, personally, I would love 100% of our kids to be involved in something after school, you know, but I had to think about, like, especially those high school kids who have a job or have to take care of younger siblings or grandma or whatever. There are always gonna be those exceptions.
Can only take the bus home.
Yeah, and I also thought though about, like, in terms of your strategies and activities, the counselors are so important, middle school and high school, to reach kids. You know, they're not only trying to ask them what activities are you in for college purposes, but just for that connectedness piece. But what I wondered about was the 2nd through 5th graders, what mechanism do we have to really encourage kids and parents to sign those students up for a co-curricular activity?
I think exposure is one. I mean, the idea of making sure that, parents know of the opportunities, cause that's one of the biggest hurdles, I think, is knowing that LEAP and all the individual activities that LEAP has beyond, basketball, volleyball. I mean, we talk about mindfulness, we talk about robotics. Those are things that LEAP offers, for groups. It's just continuing to make sure, especially as new parents come in, that they know about the opportunities.
And expansion of opportunities.
And having enough room for them, because you remember all of the discussion with the student, or the parents that were really sweating what to do for summer. No summer camp, no summer school. It just wasn't there. So you can create the expectation, but if you cannot meet the expectation, you've done no one a service.
And just as a matter, we don't have a baseline obviously right now for that. Kind of, you did it in high school, but.
We only at the high school.
Small pockets, but not systemically.
So can we at least, just like we've done, I think, on a few other, just obviously baseline to be determined at that first review?
You had the K through 8 registrations for last year, that's all they had.
Only, correct.
Yeah.
Are we gonna do anything for summer?
We're working on it. We did robotics, we put our toe in, so that's
That was
part of our
very-
conversation about what can we find people and start looking at expanding.
Because as a single parent, I very much realized I had year-round considerations, not just school year.
As a parent with a spouse, we were looking for a lot of everything too.
Well, that's it.
Still am.
And then we had limited slots.
Yes.
And how do you discriminate?
Right.
Between the single parent household and.
Well, the hope is that we can service all kids, so that's what we gotta work on.
Mr. Chairman, are you looking for?
I am looking, I think we've hit that point.
Is there a motion?
There is no motion.
Go ahead,
I
Scott.
thought that's what you're saying.
What, I don't, no, it's not written out.
I move
I thought you were gonna do it. If you would like to, I would take a motion at this point.
Adopt the TCAPS strategic plan 2025 to 2030 as proposed.
I will second that.
Alright. Any further discussion? Alright.
In time, I'd like to see us add a survey for the after graduation kids.
Good, which I don't disagree with, but that's the good part, is the annual review, and I think this has been a massive project for the board. So I do appreciate everything, but before that, we should have a vote, so Tammy, please conduct a roll call vote.
Trustee Ballinger,
I better say yes.
trustee Hardy,
Aye.
trustee Bajeris,
Yes.
trustee Moon Moore.
Yes.
Trustee Pack.
Yeah.
Trustee Schmidt
Yes.
and trustee Norman Bell.
Yes, motion carries, and again, thank you to everyone, staff, community, everyone knows the amount of people who've been involved in this and the hours put in is huge, so thank you. The next discussion item is the added item for CKLA materials purchase. Do I interrupt my moment?
Yep, so I've provided you the memo that Dan had sent me. I've also let the board know about this. Secretary Ballinger did have a couple of things I thought were really valuable that we did update just a little bit. One was identifying exactly what 31M was. It is a state grant in the School Aid Act versus 35 million. Wanted to make sure that was key, I thought. Also identifying that some split classrooms, we do still have a few splits, not all of them unfortunately. Totally were able to eliminate, and some were purposeful to make sure that in our smaller schools, to be able to have room, to be able to have kids in different classes and stuff in grade. So those were the two that were updated just earlier this early afternoon. Again, this is also was posted as something that I was going to ask to add, so it was online, so it wasn't a surprise to our community beforehand. So at this point, I'll pass over to Dan just to take any questions you may have on it to bring clarification.
Did you want me, real quickly, 35M literacy grant, it's a non-competitive grant, so schools that applied receive the grant. Jesse and Brittany just did a fantastic job about there's 3 different pots that you could apply to, either professional development materials or tier 2 With our professional development, we felt that we had most of that covered with our Title II and some of the Tier 2 resources that they provided. We didn't think were as useful as what we were currently using, or we could use with CKLA. So we decided to go with the materials. That was a great thing to do because we probably came out with 75% to 80% more money with the materials grant than we did with the other two. So total is around $750,000 that we got with the 35M grant to be spent, I believe before September 30th, 2026. So we decided to expand a little bit. We had some ideas about Montessori. I know that we mentioned the splits also, making sure every teacher in Montessori had a kit before we were just supplying it to one of the mixed grade levels. And then also expanding our kits to junior kindergarten as they will transition, as we continue to work on that program and develop that curriculum, working with the JK teachers. They use a preschool program to start the year, and then we'll slowly start to mix in some of this material.
Okay. Any questions? Do I have a motion?
I move that the Board of Education approve $76,384 from the district section 35M of the fiscal year 2025 State School Aid Act awarded literacy grant for the purchase of state-approved CKLA materials through Amplify. This includes a 10% contingency.
I second.
Second, all right. Tammy, please go to roll call vote.
Trustee Moonmore,
Yes.
trustee Pack,
Yes.
trustee Bujeris.
Yes.
Trustee Ballinger,
Yes.
trustee Hardy,
Aye.
trustee Schmidt,
Yes.
and trustee Newman Bale.
Yes, motion carries.
Just want to thank the board for adding that item. I do not like to bring things to the board without going through committee, but we've had, if teachers need it and we have kids in front of us and we gotta order it, it's important to get it. So I thank for your flexibility on that item.
And I apologize for not including it on file as well, so, before we had to double approve. Moving on to public comment number 2, which there is none. So we do now have a closed session portion of the agenda for the superintendent quarterly evaluation. Just a reminder to everyone, we did talk about doing this an hour earlier to allow time and not putting it at the end of the meetings. I was planning on starting that on the December annual review, which is obviously the more critical one, so that's when I was gonna start that. So the December meeting would be we have to make sure it's also posted at 5 o'clock as well. So just note that the December meeting should start an hour earlier.
I move to enter into a closed session for the purpose of conducting a periodic personnel evaluation as allowed by Open Meetings Act, PA 267 of 1976, Section 8(1)A. The closed session was requested in writing by the employee.
Any discussion?
You need a second.
Oh, thank you. Tammy, please conduct a roll call vote.
Moonmore, trustee Ballinger,
Oh, I wasn't the second.
No.
Hardy.
Hardy.
Oh, Hardy was the second, I'm sorry. Okay, trustee Hardy,
Yes.
trustee Bujeris,
Yes.
trustee Ballinger,
With a yes.
trustee Pack,
Yes.
trustee Schmidt,
Yes.
trustee Newman Bale.
Oh,
He said yes.
I said yes.
I said yes, we all said yes, or aye.
The motion carries, we are now in
Somewhere
closed
there was
session.
a
After closed
unanimous
session ends, we
approval.
return to this room.
Pirate.
if no objection, we return to open session. We are now in open session. Board president and closing remarks. In fact, one thing I just did forget on the meeting that I want to make sure we do cover. Tammy, sorry, I don't have my laptop out. You mentioned a study session earlier. I do believe there is an unassigned study session that we kept for
October 27th.
October. Was it 27th?
I think it's October 27th, yes.
That was my question. So there is an unassigned study session on the agenda right now, so.
October 27th.
October 27th. We could either, I don't know, John, if you would be ready to do anything. I know there was mention earlier, early childhood education, but it's up. We can also.
I'll say two things. I think the team's a little taxed right now with
Yeah,
everything
I
that's happened, right?
I think so too.
So I wouldn't mind bumping it a month if we could. And I do think early childhood would be a good one. I don't know Jessica's availability, but we've never gone there. And again, with some of our initial conversation, I think it would be good for the board to learn just numbers, different programs, all those kind of things. I think it's a good one to sit and take a look at and understand.
And we can leave it to early next year too, so
Your call.
if you want, we can at least cancel that meeting.
I actually think we should literally, I mean, we have added on meetings, we've had a lot of study sessions. I think to push it, and that's my own opinion, I just think that
Let this
from a
settle in,
staff
yeah.
perspective, I mean, man, they have
We have
been
a lot of work to do right now too.
busting their butts, it's been a lot.
What I'd like to see is maybe let it go and then wait until maybe in the spring and do something on AI or do something on early child. I think both of those are important.
We
So I
do
think
have,
the organizational meeting,
Yep.
you could talk about that again if you wanted to boot it to that. So your call.
and on the organizational meeting like we did this year, we would have proposed dates if the board chooses to do so on.
Which you won't have the strategic planning, the study sessions.
Which,
Well, then your strategic plan, this one today, is not gonna start until January 1, or are you
No,
gonna start
immediately.
starting it right now?
As it's adopted today.
Okay, are you gonna do anything on closure of the prior strategic plan? Or is it just gonna settle into the dust and?
I think they did that
yeah, we did.
back in
did it
June,
this year.
Oh, it's
July.
done.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so, but
So we will
I
have
think-
one strategic planning for an update to the strategic plan, a study session for an update to the strategic plan next year.
Which I think summerish would be good,
Summerish.
I mean, the hardest part, remember, is the M step of anything that's related, we don't get till late, but
So, but in January, we can cover all of those. For right now, my point of this is to just, I plan on canceling the October 27th meeting. I
That's
don't
good.
actually know if I need an
I
action
think
of the
there's-
board.
That's a good move, because also it comes right after the Michigan Association of School Boards Annual Leadership Conference, which I think
Oh.
everybody on this board is attending.
You're
and
right,
the
that's
superintendent.
yes.
So I looked at the calendar, was like, oh my gosh, we're gonna be
Yeah.
away for 3 days, and then
And the only other question I have is, for the December meeting, do we wanna set a time earlier for evaluation? What time would you like that set at?
Yeah, 5 o'clock
Five?
Yep.
Okay,
For December only.
for December only.
and then regular meeting, so then we'll just go whenever that's done, we'll just go into our agenda?
Yeah,
Okay, so actually set the meeting for 5 o'clock, starting with Pledge of Allegiance, all of our stuff, then right into closed session?
yes.
Okay.
And then we could have,
And then
That's kinda
all
weird.
the rest
You
of
think
it.
that's straight?
well, this is what we talked about, as a board
Yeah,
with
I know.
cause at the end, everyone's
pretty taxed with a long agenda.
taxed, so like we can change that. Guidance
Do you think
is
you
here.
should go like start at 5 and then go through sort of public comments, district highlights, legislative updates, and then like the first discussion item you go, or I don't know, I'm just.
Clear consent, clear consent.
Yeah.
The only problem you run into is if you have public, you're waiting to talk about an issue, and we just started
Start the
and then
meeting, I
left for an
know.
hour.
Well, the alternative is we designate, which is risky, it limits it, and then it also means is if we're done early, we're sitting around waiting, but you can say, we're gonna start at 5 and we start the regular meeting, we'll be back in open session at 6:30.
Yeah, I like that solution.
Well, then let's be real clear when we post the meeting that people know that.
So, yeah,
That's a good.
Again,
The
whatever,
Eagle and the Ticker would appreciate that.
yeah, like
I
that
got what
way,
you want there, I
that's how
understand.
we do it.
I'm not sure I'll word it, but I get it, so.
Yeah, I just
So
think
the
it.
first agenda item will be a closed session. We expect
Yep,
regular
at 5
business
o'clock,
to
And then at
begin.
that point, it's, we'll just put break in, like, don't know how long that'll be, might be 2 minutes, might be 20 minutes. And then, the next part of the agenda starts at 6:30.
Correct.
Okay,
And we'll figure out how to communicate, word it, but that's, so it will start at 5,
totally get the understanding of it.
okay, and we'll make it clear.
You lead, we'll follow.
Well, again, this is new, it's been a very common theme that whenever we've done this, it's typically there's something also has happened for that meeting, so it's usually not starting until late, for whatever reason. And so for the last
Very true.
several reviews, we've had some starting particularly late, and it's just clearly not productive, and it's one of our most critical parts of the year of evaluating the superintendent. That's one of our biggest jobs, so I wanna make sure that we do it in the right mindset and give it time it deserves. So I think that's a great solution. Then 5 o'clock, we'll start the meeting early, and we'll make it clear that regular business will start at 6:30.
And God willing, we know the budget.
If we don't, we probably don't have the
If
money
not
to
that, right,
have a meeting.
it won't.
That would be crazy.
Yeah,
But
Okay.
I'll have to get back with my Home Depot
So-
schedule.
I don't need a motion, that's, as long as everyone's okay and nothing that. So do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I move to adjourn the meeting.
I second.
Thanks. All those in
Not all
favor
at
say aye.
once. Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Meeting adjourned.